You're good, and it's 6.
Okay, good evening. It's 6 p.m., September 11th, 2019. I'd like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for this evening. Also like to announce that this meeting is... Jesus.
Sorry.
There's always one.
Okay, I'd like to announce this meeting is being televised live on local Mashpee TV. Next, if we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like everybody to remain standing for a moment of silence after the pledge for all the people lost in the 9/11 attacks. So let's all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Is your mic's on? I don't know why she's saying she can't hear you.
It's on over there, too.
It's on over here. Can everybody hear me?
Want me to try something here?
Switch mics. Try that one. No, mine's working.
Does this work?
No? That's our
Hello,
operator
hello.
behind the glass.
Can you hear me?
Knock on that window
No,
back
it's not.
there, would you?
It's not going out there.
Hello? Anybody?
Oh, is it? It was, but now it's not. Well, what she did give us the green to go.
I don't think the microphones are on. Oh, we're on now? That close?
Yeah, that's on now.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, does anybody have a public comment regarding anything not relating to any agenda items tonight? If so, you can sign in with Mary Ann, and you can have 2 minutes to make a comment. Really? That loud? I don't think it's working then. Okay, anybody for a public comment? Okay. Okay, there's many people in attendance tonight, so I'm sure most of you have something to say. All of you will get a chance to speak, as I will ask for public comments after the board questions the applicants. So board members Bill Blaisdell, Jim Gould, and George Ganzenmuller are absent tonight. So sitting on tonight's first hearing are our 3 regular board members, as well as Jim and Sharon. Sharon, would you read the first new hearing?
26 Greenwood Road. Owners Leo Surratt request a variance from the front yard setbacks under 174-31 FN 19, Land Space Requirements Table of the zoning bylaws to allow for the construction of a deck on property located in an R3 zoning district and Pompanesett Overlay District, map 117, 179, Mashpee, Mass.
That's it, 2? You missed one.
No, this one.
It's just one, right?
Yeah,
I just
One,
left off
that's,
the
that's
zip.
not colored. So.
yeah. Okay, do we have anybody here for, yeah, come on up if you would. And give us your name and address for the record, and you can have your say.
Okay, my name is Lee. Can everyone hear me?
No.
Yeah, these aren't working.
Okay, I'll speak really loud. Okay, my name is Leo Surratt. I live at 26 Greenwood Road, Pompanesett, Mashpee. And I'm here to, good evening, everybody.
That
I'm
mic.
here today to ask permission to finish our deck.
That worked.
That works.
We started building the deck, and I measured incorrectly. I measured 25 feet from the road instead of 25 feet from the lot line, which puts us over.
It's going to be a long night.
So, even though we've broken letter of the law, we've always tried to the intent of the law. We do believe that the ultimate intent of the law is to keep Mashpee a great place to live. So we've jutted out into the setback. But if I can step back in time for a minute, my mom and dad built a house in 1950 at the same location. It was a little summer cottage. We kept it up until 3 years ago, and we knocked it down and built a new house. When we built a new house, can everyone hear me? We built the new house. In doing so, we kept it small. We kept it a 2-bedroom, no upstairs, with just a little bit of an attic to keep Mashpee, the feeling of the intent of what Mashpee was always to us. We wanted to maintain that same feeling. So we built the house. In doing so, they took away our basement, and they left us with a retaining wall that sticks out in front of the house. Now, I have pictures of that if you want to see that. It's kind of an ugly retaining wall that sticks out of the front of the house and also out of the side of the house, and it's a flow vent for in case of any flooding. So I have pictures of that. Does anyone actually
Sure.
want to see that?
Yeah.
So I'll bring that up.
Now, you're over in Pompanesett, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So here is the
Which job is this? 'Cause
before
this
and
conservation
after.
system.
Here's the ugly retaining wall area, flow vent. And so the ultimate goal was always to cover that somehow. And also, we had no basement, so we built a shed. So I didn't just build a crappy little shed or have one plop down. We built a nice shed that looks like a little teeny summer cottage. And in landscaping the property, we kept 3/4 of the property pine needles, just like the old house. Again, to keep the intention of all of the rules, even though we did break the letter of the law when we did the deck. Now we come to the deck. I stick out a little bit into the setback, but we still try to keep the intention and the look of the place to be nice. Now, 2 houses away at 36 Greenwood Road, which is just down the street, his deck sticks out. He is only 10 feet from the road. That makes even though I'm still incorrect, I'm more than double his setback. So I have pictures of that, if anyone wants to see that.
Sure.
So let me grab those. So there's multiple, because I tried to zoom in on here's his,
Oh, you even got the tape measure going.
yeah, I couldn't.
But you don't show the other end where it goes
I
to.
did show that, all of these other photos.
Oh, very nice, I'm impressed.
So, again, even though I stick out
Sorry.
into the setback, I'm not setting any precedent because my neighbor is more than twice as close than we are. So again, and I also have letters from our neighbors. Let me see, letters of acceptance from some of our neighbors that are in the, that we know personally. And I have those letters with me tonight. So again, to conclude, we would like to have you rule that all we need to do is put railings on the deck and fix any structural thing that I did incorrectly, which we have a structural engineer coming tomorrow. We will do that to make sure that the building inspector gets his structural preferences checked off, and all we do is hopefully fix that, put the railings on the deck, and we're done, and that's our last thing that we even build at this location.
Now, did you measure from his lot line?
I measured
pull that-
all the way out to the street, so he's even worse than what we show there.
Correct.
It's
So
10
that pavement I see is the street?
is, yeah, 10 feet from the street, and I know the lot, if I'm 5 feet off, then he's 5 feet from his lot line, and that's the front of his house. And here are my letters from my neighbors, if you would like to see those.
So can I ask a couple questions? Yeah. So are you, sir, are you saying that there was a taking of your property by the town?
No,
When you started this presentation, you were talking about something changed or something on the lot changed. What was that? I'm not clear on that.
No,
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you say it. I know what you're saying.
nothing changed. We took a small teeny cottage, smashed that down, built a Four Seasons house. And
Gotcha.
we were going to build the deck. We didn't build the deck on top of the flow vent.
And
Then
and approximately when was that?
3 years ago, we started with a new house. And then,
So I assume
You
you
came
came
to this
here?
board then?
yeah, that was all approved
Right.
through the town and everything. And then
Years
when,
ago.
when it came time to me to put the deck on, I just started not knowing I needed anything.
I see.
I was in the wrong.
Was there a
and
variance originally, though? Did he even come to this board? Or did he get a building permit without a?
I didn't
what
get a
I
building
mean, it was a
permit.
tear down rebuild, it must have come through
Yeah.
there.
Not in Pompanesett overlay.
A tear down rebuild?
Right, if it meets the minimum lot size requirement and the setbacks,
Well,
What's
so
lot
that-
coverage in that zone?
well, it's
25.
25 now,
But that's
which is
now.
now
3 years ago, it was
20.
yeah. And the setback would have met okay because that's 19.5 to the deck. Well, since we're on it.
And the building inspector and Mary Ann have told me to reference section 19, open decks or platforms, and I have that right with me here today.
So is the permit still open on this?
There is no permit because I didn't get a permit to start.
So there was a
you-
permit for the house.
Oh, that's all done. and
The house is done, so you did the,
I did the deck
basically, you're building the deck
3
without
years
a,
later, right.
so you didn't pull a permit for the deck?
No, I did not.
Okay. So I'm caught up on that. Do you now have a permit application and that's why you're here?
No, I'm supposed to do this
Okay.
first and then do that next.
Okay, so that deck on the original approved permit didn't have any setbacks to that deck or that retaining
It
wall?
didn't have a deck on the original house build.
Okay. The next question I have is, you were told by someone, which is confusing me, that you were in a wetland and that you needed flood vents? For the construction?
Since we were below flood grade, we needed flow vents to build the...
Flood vents.
I'm his wife. I'm just gonna sit here because some of the questions I'm not sure he's getting it or if they got clarified.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak into the microphone, though. Only reason I'm asking, because I'm looking at Drew McManus, our conservation agent's letter, and it says there are no wetlands jurisdictions for this property.
That's right.
So I don't understand why,
It was deemed below the flood zone. We raised the entire property 2 feet, and they disallowed the basement that was previously there with the old cottage. That was taken out, and this flow-through system, which
yeah.
included that retaining wall, was part
I
of the
understand that, but I
requirement.
don't understand why Drew's saying there's no wetlands jurisdiction there.
Not considering flood zone
It's
as a
still in a
wetlands
flood zone, though,
jurisdiction.
right?
How can flood
Otherwise,
zone not be
they
wetlands
wouldn't have had to do this.
He's done that before, I've seen
Has
it.
it? All right. I thought anything that would be in a flood zone would be
Yeah,
in
no,
his
that flood
jurisdiction.
zone and flood zone in my, flood zone and conservation jurisdiction, I think could be two different issues. Resource area setback. That's what he's meaning, I think.
Yeah?
He's more
Do
than
you want
100
my,
feet away from a resource.
do you want me
area.
to respond?
Yeah, I'd like to see here your
Right, it's in the
response.
floodplain.
Yeah.
So that's why they built the house without a basement,
Yeah.
with the flood
Yep.
control. And it wasn't in conservation's jurisdiction because it's, it's all manicured full of many, many lots, and it's,
vegetated wetland.
no, it's not anywhere
It's not a
close.
resource area.
It's not a resource
Oh,
area, exactly.
They seem
So
to,
Drew is out of it and has no jurisdiction, but from a standpoint of building code,
okay,
he had to do it.
all right, so, okay.
All right, so,
No, I can wait on these ones, good.
so lot coverage, there's nothing on here in reference to lot coverage, but just doing it.
22.
Say again?
22,
See it?
But they can go to 25.
Right.
and we're under that.
And who did, and so I presume the engineer did that, the
No,
survey?
Down Cape Engineering did that, and then
'Cause I just did the
verified
calculation.
the lot coverage after your request.
Okay.
So do we have because you said the neighbors are less. Do we have an average from the two abutting neighbors? Did anyone do a calculation of that? Because that's an advantage to you if your neighbors are less than 25 feet.
He's on the corner lot, so he can't do that.
And
can't
two
average.
houses
Can
down,
average
two
on the
houses
lot?
down on Greenwood,
No?
their deck in the front of their house is 10 feet
Well,
from
I don't
the
think that, if
road.
it's two houses down, I don't think we can count that. But it is a corner lot, which is a hardship.
Right.
Their house is a corner lot as well.
36
That wouldn't help
Greenwood.
us as comparing setbacks, though.
As one member, I don't think there was an intent to make the deck, something to, it's 6 inches is what, I mean, it's 5 feet,
5 inches.
5 feet, 5 inches, sorry.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't think the intent was there to, looking at the size of it, it's not a large deck. I know we don't want to set a precedence that we allow that, but, Charlie?
You're allowed to have an open deck or platform 4 feet into the setback. So they would have been allowed if they kept it at 21 feet.
So the
It's
variance,
like
the
19.5.
variance would be 1.5 feet?
It's like a foot and a half, somewhere around
That
there.
would be for the access, though, wouldn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, and that's a required means of egress.
But he already has it, and I'm okay with it, I'm not trying to be against this, but the deck that exists today would be considered the entrance deck,
Right.
not the deck that he's adding on in the future.
No, he added on already.
Let me see the pictures. The deck's in there.
No, no, what I'm saying is, see that deck there? That would be,
connected?
that would be the 4-foot,
Yes, I know what you're saying.
you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It doesn't matter, I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't think there was an intent there to try
I
to,
couldn't agree more.
I'm just trying to dot all the i's and that fun stuff. It's not huge. I know we don't want to set a precedence. Looking at it, I think you're going to have some other issues as a builder with building, but that's not our issues. So that's just my,
What is, sir, what is the amount of the relief you're seeking, the exact calculation? Is it 5 feet, 4 feet, what is it
I
exactly?
think they're asking for 5.5 feet, but Charlie's saying that it's
Since
really
we're
only a foot and a
allowed
half.
4 feet, we want
foot and a
1
half.
foot 5 inches more.
I don't think it's 1 foot 5 inches.
So maybe a better way to do it, just to protect
1'7"
this, is, Charlie, what does he actually need in order to get a building permit for
19.5.
relief?
I don't have it in front of me, but you should be able to.
He's showing
measure that.
19.5 to the edge of the deck.
Is that
So what would he,
19.5?
what would he need for relief?
Well, you're allowed 4 feet in, so it's 21 feet he'd be allowed to the property line.
Okay,
So 21 feet, and he's 19.5.
Yeah, but is that 0.5
Is
tenths?
that 19 and a
Or is
half
that-
feet or 19
19.5?
feet,
It's the
5
scale,
inches?
So do we have a scale
I
ruler?
have the scale right here. What do you need? So it's
Good
19
luck,
and a half
yeah,
feet.
good luck reading an inch.
Oh, yeah, there's no
Difference.
way.
You're not gonna be able to tell.
So why don't we just figure an extra 6 inches or something? So what would that calculation be?
It'd be a foot and a half.
Why don't we just do 2 feet?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
give
fine with
us-
that. I'm fine with 2 feet. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So if someone were to make a motion, what is the exact relief that's sought?
2 feet.
2 feet?
Why not?
Okay.
Jim, do you have any questions? Sharon?
Is that correct, Charlie? You're the one that's gonna be,
Yeah, I'm going to be,
you're gonna be the one that's, right?
it's,
If 2 feet's it, that's,
they're showing 19.5, and they were allowed to be 21. It's only a foot and a half, so if you go 2 feet, in my opinion,
Can't build those other stairs. That is his entry. Look, those stairs aren't there.
oh, I see. No, there they are, right there.
Well, they're on an angle. That's not the same as what's on that drawing.
Yeah,
So that's different.
it really doesn't matter.
No.
In the scheme of things.
Should we condition it on this permit being pulled and?
Oh, it's,
We also have
no,
5.
he's going to.
doesn't that go without saying? Charlie wouldn't let him do that.
Yep. Want to read them?
Right, Shelley? Isn't that true?
Just read the first one.
We will
They're a form
work with
letter.
the building inspector to
And the
make
name and
it
address.
structurally sound or what, and pull the permit or whatever we have to do to complete it
Gotcha.
the correct way.
I think we should petition that.
All right, so I have one last question, not regarding the deck. How close is the shed to the lot line?
6 feet, 5.5 feet. And that's what they said that I could do. And that was permitted.
Tears down.
Okay. Yeah, just, the setback isn't on the plan. So you think it's 5.5?
Yeah, I made it a little more than the 5 feet that was allowed. And that was on the short form permit.
All right, Sharon, would you read, actually, let's start with comments if we have any.
Okay.
Conservation, we did.
Conservation?
Conservation not in wetlands jurisdiction. Board of Health, no comment. Deck is not in the way of the septic system. And I have a series of letters. They're basically the same letter, so I'm going to read one and then just read
Names and addresses.
the names and addresses of the people who signed it. Okay. First of all, Todd and Linda asked their neighbors, "This letter is to inform you that we have submitted an application to the Town of Mashpee Zoning Board requesting a variance regarding the setback requirements for the location of our front deck. The front deck setback requirement is 25 feet to the lot line. Our proposed front deck is 19.5 from the lot line by 18 feet long. Please come by and talk to us if you have any questions, or call Lee at her phone number. We plan to present our request to the zoning board at their regular meeting on September 11th, 2019. We would greatly appreciate your support for a variance request. Would you be willing to write a letter in support of our application? A letter would be great. However, if you choose not to write something, would you fill out the comment form below? Thank you for your consideration. Nancy Wild and Lee Surratt. And I, Todd Grevich of 22 Uncle Henry Road, agree to the proposed deck plans for 26 Greenwood Road, including the variance to the setback dimensions. James Tedesco of 25 Greenwood Road has no issues either. Kevin Scully of 29 Uncle Henry's Road is in favor. And James Farrell of 74 Percy Road agrees. And, oh, that's Marion. Nancy and Lee agree too. And
Okay.
those are all the people that
All right.
are on the form letter.
Anybody in the audience have any comments on this case? Seeing none, Ron, do you want to make a motion?
I would love to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the board issues a variance in the amount of 2 feet to Leo Surratt of 26 Greenwood Road from the front yard setback under 174-31 footnote 19 land space requirement table of the zoning bylaw to allow for construction of a deck on a property located in an R3 zoning district in Papaneset Overlay District Map 170, parcel 179, Mashpee, Mass. 02649, with the following conditions. Board has determined the applicant meets all the conditions of a variance under Mass General Law 48, Section 10. Also make reference to the plot plan prepared for Leo Surratt, 26 Greenwood Road, Mashpee, Mass. Scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, dated June 20th, 2019. Reference, access, assessor's map, 117, parcel 179, LCP 11408I. Lot 21, prepared by Down Cape Engineering, Inc., dated 6/2019, signed by Daniel A. Ojola. Number 40980, professional registered land surveyor. Again, the amount of variance is 2 feet. Conditional all town department comments read in the record, also butters comments read in the record. And the applicant must seek and apply and obtain all necessary permits prior to the commencement of construction.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pass the stuff down.
Stuff.
Have you been out there to see this?
What?
Have you been out to see this?
Letters?
I'm the one that's, saw it.
Good luck.
Did
The
you leave
letters
letters?
went down.
I passed them down already.
Oh, are they
Forget
part
about
of the pile?
We handle the variance part, you gotta handle the construction part of it.
Looks pretty good,
It looks pretty good?
yeah.
Oh,
Wish I could do that.
okay, I'm gonna keep that picture for the future references on my inspections.
Okay.
Do you want this?
Oh,
Sir?
yeah, put that with it. And
Save that picture, I'll talk to you later.
They must have went that way.
hey, do we sign the,
Oh, sure.
do we sign the vote? There we go, that's what we need.
You fool.
What? Yeah, but he's not here, so it's easy. See?
Gonna make the big X's for him. Remember, he just signs.
Should've just left it alone. They would've never known the difference between myself or Billy Blaze.
Yeah, you guys are just
Everybody knows.
alike.
Ron, I do look at the signatures on the decisions,
Really?
Yeah.
You do? Or who? You do?
yeah.
I should have known. How did I miss that?
That's how he starts his
And the
day.
fingerprints, right?
That's
Is that
how
why it has this black stuff all over the place?
first thing he does Wednesday morning when he gets, Thursday morning when he gets in.
Yeah. Though he actually
No.
has this fingerprint.
The first thing I do is I've got a dartboard with your picture on it, that's the first thing I do.
Blame you.
All right, Sharon, would you read the next new hearing, please?
Oh, boy.
19 Keel Way, owner Julianne E. Rainville, trustee, request a variance under 174-33, setbacks from water and wetlands of the zoning bylaws to allow for the construction of a shed on property located in an R3 zoning district in Little Neck Bay, map 120, parcel 138, Mashpee, Mass.
Hi. Somebody here representing? Come right up. And for the record, your name and address?
This is wetlands.
Good afternoon. My name is Wayne Tavares. I'm representing Julianne Rainville in this project. I was here a couple months ago with a sort of a similar project. The town has a setback requirement for structures within 50 feet of a wetland. So we have a shed. We've done all the work here. I worked here 25 years ago, and the building meets all codes and coverage. It's currently now about 23.76% coverage, and the shed only adds 0.7%. So it's a small shed, 10 by 20. It's 34 feet away from the top of a coastal bank. From a BVW, and it's 25.5 feet away from a top of coastal bank. So it's within your jurisdiction. It is a portable structure that's being brought out, not built in place. It's not fixed to the ground. And it sort of completes this pool arrangement in the backyard. So we seek a variance. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. A variance for the construction of a building within 50 feet of a wetland.
This is the wrong file.
Okay.
The agenda.
But where's the filing number?
Once again, conservation says no jurisdiction.
But where's the filing number? I don't understand. Where's the address that he's saying this
It
about?
doesn't, because that's what I asked, it's for the whole agenda.
Yeah, there's no
Oh, no,
problem.
there's a
There's a
problem.
problem.
That's a big problem.
Oh,
That was gonna be the first question. You have an order of conditions for this?
I do. Yes.
no one told us.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's why he said that.
All right, boss. Now, it's right up against the front, or it looks like the side.
That's a side. Keel Way is on the right.
Side, yes, you've allowed 5 feet.
Yeah, and how far is it from the side?
5 feet,
5 feet.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
34.94 from the,
BVW.
yeah,
So, conservation have any issues?
No,
evidently not.
I'll actually look at the actual orders, but it's been issued, there's no question. I'm just looking, there wasn't an appeal?
No, no appeals.
If you-
Actually, most of this is built.
If you were to be issued your request, what is the amount, what is the relief you're seeking? Is it 25, you said 25 feet from the coastal bank, correct?
34.94.
It's
from
34.94.
Yeah. But you're 25 from coastal bank.
Right, or 25.5.
So do you
from the
want, are
coastal
you
bank.
requesting like an additional 25 from the coastal bank? Or are you-
Yes, yeah, the nearest resource area
That's
is
my
what you've
point.
got to do, yes.
So you're looking for a relief from the coastal bank jurisdiction of 25 feet, correct?
Exactly.
That'll give you your 50.
Thank you.
Does that make sense, Charlie?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the coastal bank is that dotted line, isn't it?
The heavy
Got
dotted
it.
line.
Looks like a railroad tracks type thing.
Now, the BVW is clearly marked.
Got
It's
it.
further towards the water, towards
Got it.
Great River.
Yep.
Inside is top of coastal bank, see
Yeah.
the TOCB?
TOCB, number
Yeah,
one.
that's it. 2,
Got it.
3, and so forth, right.
Okay.
I'm surprised it's,
So this was issued back in April.
Yeah, a long
Was-
time ago, yes, yes.
so
Most
when
of
was the
work has
shed
been done.
actually put in, or has it been put in?
No, it has not.
So,
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments by anybody on the board?
No.
Okay. Have anything to read in, any comments?
Board of Health says no issue with the location, no heat or habitation allowed.
Okay, we already know that conservation has issued an order of conditions. We don't have anything else, do we? Charlie, do you have anything to add?
What's the size of the shed?
10 by 12.
120 square?
that doesn't require a foundation, right?
No, and it meets the requirements for setback, the side property line.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody in the audience have any comments? Okay, seeing none. Ron, would you like to make a motion?
I'll have to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the board issue a variance to Juliana E. Rainville, trustee. I'd like to know trustee of what, but okay, trustee, owner of 19 Keel Way. Do we actually know what the name of the trust is?
Julianne Rainville Trust, period.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we issue a variance to the Julianne E. Rainville Trust, Julianne E. Rainville trustee, owner, 19 Keel Way, from section 174-33, setbacks from wetlands, waterlands and wetlands of the zoning bylaws to allow for construction of a shed on property located in R3 zoning district and Little Neck Bay, map 130, parcel 138, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Board has determined the applicant meets all the conditions of a variance under Mass General Laws 48, Section 10. A landscape development plan for Julianne Rainville, 19 Keel Way, Mashpee, Mass. Proposed conditions, relocated deck, planting and mitigation provided by Wet Tech Land Design, Inc., scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, drawn by Wayne Tavares, L.A., date 2/27/2019, checked by WRT, job number 19-1600, revised FEMA changes 3/17/2019. The board specifically is issuing a variance in the amount of 25 feet. That's calculated. 50 feet is required. You're showing 25 feet, thus the difference is 25 feet. Condition on all town boards' comments read into the record. Specifically, there's no heat or habitation allowed in this shed, and it's also noted that the applicant has sought and received an order of conditions from the Town of Mashpee Conservation Commission.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for remembering 9/11 today, too.
Oh, look what he did, isn't that? Who did the X's?
Wasn't me. Don't give me the credit.
I'm loving it.
You know, I could do it without the X's.
Some can, some can't.
Just go.
You didn't show approved.
I wasn't sure yet. I was waiting until it came back. Now I'm sure. Just testing you.
It's a school teacher in me.
I second it.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Everything passed down?
Yep.
Everything's in?
Yep.
All right, Sharon, would you read the next new hearing, please?
79 Cayuga Avenue. Petitioner David J. Rivera requests a variance under 174-31 from the front and side setbacks and lot coverage requirements to allow for the construction of a garage and porch on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 58, parcel 12, Mashpee, Mass. Issued variance V 2016-18 expired, owner of record, Kristen E. Ferguson.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? For the record, I'm Dana Wessel from North Star Construction. I'm representing the applicant, David Rivera and Kristen Ferguson, who's in the audience. The reason that we're here is there was a previously issued variance that expired, that lapsed. And we went to apply for the permit. We weren't aware that it had lapsed. There are no changes requested. We're requesting that we reissue the variance or reapprove the variance as it was in 2016. And I'll take any questions that you might have
When are they going to start?
right now. As soon as,
Promise?
well, I did want to request that rather than issue a new variance, if there was a way to do it as an extension of the previously issued variance to avoid the 20-day appeal period and having to record a new variance.
I don't think legally we
Not
can.
under state statute, I don't believe there is.
I don't
Can't
think we-
do
I
it.
think a hand's-
Charlie, any idea on that?
No, they've got
There's nothing.
nothing.
I don't think we have the jurisdiction to do it.
Yeah. Okay, it's worth a shot.
I do have.
Maybe if before it ran out.
Yeah, it would have had to have been, a 6-month extension would have had to have been requested within 1 year. Or there was a couple of other, if the property had transferred, that was another way out, but we don't qualify for any of those exceptions.
If I may ask a question, you're looking for relief from lot coverage.
No, it's front and rear, it's front and side setback. The original application had a larger garage. There were 2 hearings. The board requested at the time that the garage be narrowed from 18 to 14 feet,
I remember.
which brought the lot coverage under control.
So the way it was advertised, though, it says from the front and side yard setbacks and lot coverage requirements.
Correct, but
You're not seeking that.
we are not seeking a lot coverage variance.
So you're only seeking front and side yard.
Correct.
And what's the amount of the front and side yard that you're seeking?
19, or 9.8 on the garage side.
So that side yard is 9.8,
Yep.
and you're also seeking.
That's not the relief.
Yeah, all right,
Yep, that's the
That's the
That's the
setback.
actual distance,
all right. And so what does the zone require?
15?
15.
So I'd rather you do the math than I do the math, because if you're going to make this, you're the applicant.
Okay, 5.2.
So you're looking for relief of 5.2 feet,
5.2 on the side,
okay?
and I'll read it right off of the, well, the front would be,
And-
front would be required 40,
Yeah,
so we need 9.7,
relief.
yes.
So 5.2 relief side yard, 9.7 front yard relief.
Correct.
Thank you.
Does that look right?
Seems right, but I figure if, as always, if the applicant can figure it out, it's much better than me.
I agree. We can certainly double check, though. Okay. Any other?
So when was this actual variance issued to you prior?
2016. It was, the final hearing was September 28th of 2016. It was approved at that time.
Yep. Okay. Do we have any comments from any boards?
Board of Health, septic inspection performed, 4 bedrooms allowed in dwelling. Floor plans were not provided, so review of floor plans shall occur at building permit review.
It's a garage.
That's what it says.
It's a second story, there's a second
Oh,
story
there
addition.
is a second story, okay.
So 4 bedrooms allowed, is that what you said?
Yes, 4 bedrooms
So
are
that'll
allowed.
be part of.
Okay. And then
Yep.
I have the conditions of the first variance from 2016. A floor plan to be amended to clearly state that the garage will be 14 feet wide by 36 feet long and it will need to be submitted as such when applying for building to the building department. The shed needs to be relocated at a minimum of 5 feet from all property lines, or it needs to be removed. The Board of Health comment that the entrance to the study needs to be a minimum of 6 feet wide, cased opening. A curb cut permit needed to be obtained. The existing rear deck needs to be removed that is located in the rear of the house prior to applying to the building department. That was
Existing
the
driveway.
conditions of the variance in 2016.
May I see that, please?
Not sure why it requires a curb cut if it's already a driveway.
Can I make 2 comments about those
Sure.
findings? The Board of Health comment about the study, there's no study that I can find on the plan. It's a 4-bedroom house. There's no study identified on the plan.
Well, I think we can take care of that, just if the motion were to include something that you need to seek and obtain Board of Health approval prior to the application of building permit, we'll take care of that issue completely.
Wonderful. And the curb cut issue, I don't know either. The driveway is not moving.
Yeah, it shows existing driveway, so I
Yeah.
don't know why we require a curb cut.
Yeah, but
There could have been a different set of plans in 2016.
Was the driveway
These are stamped from 2016.
other side of the house?
I know.
Was there
I'm not
ever a
blaming you.
driveway over there?
No, oh,
It's just dirt.
You need to come up and, so they know who you are.
That's the reason why.
what's
I
the
thought,
reason again?
because the driveway was over here.
Okay, so they do need a
Hi,
curb cut.
I'm Kristen Ferguson, the owner of the home. The driveway where you see it originally was there, but then,
Over by the existing deck, wasn't it?
no. The driveway's always been where it is. The little driveway that's by the existing deck is just a spot we made to park an extra car.
That's not on here. The only thing we see is existing paved driveway that goes to where, you want to come up and look at it?
Kristen's where it normally is.
Your driveway's always been there, correct?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
so I don't know why they're looking for a
There's a
curb
little
cut.
spot right here.
But this is
That's
where the
probably-
driveway is. And
Yes, that's where the driveway is.
What if the motion were to say that you need to reach out to the DPW and obtain in writing whether you do need one or do not need one? How's that? And they will tell you that if you do need one, get one. If you don't need one, you'll have a piece of paper saying you don't need one. But, see, our old variance includes that, and I don't remember back to 16, I was on this board, but I don't want to exclude that if I'm making the motion,
Okay.
and I make the motion. So I want to make certain
Yeah.
that we include that.
If you go to the DPW, you can clear this right up.
Right.
Okay.
the only thing I can think of is maybe the driveway is it going to get a little wider because it doesn't line up correctly with the,
I don't
Maybe-
believe
oh,
it
that
is.
would
I
require
think
a curb-
It's just gonna go straight into the garage.
okay.
So it's not that wide of a driveway.
I think it's just, you just have to go to DPW and get them to give their blessing,
Okay.
just like you would Board of Health and every other department.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, board? Anybody in the audience? Come right up if you would. You can grab the mic and give us your name and address and have your say.
I'm Betty Mendes, 17 Classic Circle. I'd like to know, is there a next-door neighbor to this home? And if so, did the neighbor give approval of the side yard variance?
They would have been, they're in a butter, they would have been notified.
They would have.
And if they had a problem, I think they would have came.
Yeah, and this was actually issued September 28th, 2016. So I don't remember who was here. I remember a little bit about the driveway and that we wanted the garage to be smaller to decrease or increase the setback.
Okay.
So, other than that, I don't remember. And I don't know, is there anybody else? Is there a neighbor here that wants to talk about that?
Maybe Mrs. Ferguson remembers this.
Yes, we have spoken to both neighbors on both sides of the home, and nobody seems to have a problem with it, or the
Okay.
people
They didn't
across
give you
the
anything in
street.
writing, right?
No.
Well,
And
maybe-
they're not here either, right?
I believe one neighbor is here that lives across the street. This is my whole neighborhood, actually.
And they're not all here for you?
They're here for something else, but not for me.
Not here to support you?
Come on, some love here, come on.
Some might want to support you, I'm just saying.
All right.
Okay.
So,
There
any
was
other comments out there?
There was nothing negative, no letters sent
Just
to-
please, let's do it.
Okay. All right, you have to promise us you'll start on this.
It's already started.
No, it isn't.
no,
it isn't.
don't say that.
No, it's not.
The power's been disconnected, the house is emptied, it's ready to go.
Oh, good.
Okay. All right, so we've read everything in, we've got
Yes.
all the comments. All
All
right.
comments and everything's been ready.
Ron, would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion, the board issues a variance to David J. Rivera of 79 Cayuga Avenue under section 17431 from the front and side yard setbacks to allow for construction of a garage and porch on property located in R3 zoning district, map 58, parcel 12, Mashpee, Mass. Issued variance V-2016-38 expired. Owner of record Christine E. Ferguson with the following conditions. Wait a second, was the owner of record that had the variance before changed?
No, we're both, he's on the deed and I'm the owner. We're both there.
So nothing's changed?
No.
David's her son.
David's my
But
son.
he's on the deed?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, in issuing the variance, the board has determined the applicant meets all the conditions of variance under Mass General Laws, Section 48, Section 10. I make reference to a certified plot plan, owner of record, Christine E. Ferguson, 79 Cayuga Ave, Mashpee, Mass. Applicant, Christine E. Ferguson, 79 Cayuga Ave, Mashpee, Mass. Project certified plot plan, 79 Cayuga Ave, Mashpee, Mass. Sheet number 1 of 1 dated 7/6/16, DWG file, Cayuga 79 scale, as noted, 1 inch equals 20 feet. Approved by MC, checked by MC, drawn by WD. Prepared by Cape and Island Engineering, Summerfield Park, 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Mass. 02649. Revision 1, dated 7/28/16, added proposed addition to plan by WD, approved by MC. Revision 2, dated 9/19/16, reduced garage dimension to 14 feet or 16 feet. How can a garage dimension be?
Probably
No?
from,
Well, okay, all
Probably
right. From 14 to 16 feet, but that's not going to
from 16 to 14,
From 16 to 14.
is what
Right.
it should be.
exactly, all right. So the dimension was reduced from 16 to 14.
Do you
You'll
agree with
see-
that?
Well, yeah, because that's one of the conditions I'm going to read further on. So, signed by Matthew C. Costa, PLS, dated 7/28/16. The board issues a variance in the following amount: 5.2 feet in the side yard and 9.7 feet in the front yard. Correct? Correct. Okay. Also, in issuing the variance, it's conditioned on all the town department comments being read into the record. Also conditioned on a floor plan to be amended to clearly state that the garage will be 14 feet wide by 36 feet long and will need to be submitted as such when applying for the building department, for a building permit. The shed needs to be, number 2, the shed needs to be located at a minimum of 5 feet from all property lines, or it needs to be removed. Number 3, the applicant shall apply for and seek all necessary permits specifically from the Board of Health in reference to floor plans, et cetera. Also, the applicant needs to apply to the DPW to find out whether they are in need of a curb cut. The existing rear deck needs to be removed. That is located in the rear of the house prior to applying to the building department for a building permit.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
What's all this stuff? I got a speed bump here.
Just checking. He drew the line again. If you didn't, I would have blown it.
Scott, I'm going to have you read this. Not yet, though.
I gotta find it. I gotta find it.
Okay. Associate Board Member Sharon Singolier has recused herself on the next hearing. Okay, every petitioner is entitled to have 5 ZBA members hear their petition. As with every petition, in order to have the petition pass, there must be 4 positive votes. When all 5 board members are present, you can have 4 positive votes, 1 negative vote, and still your petition will pass. Given that fact, you will need all 4 members to vote positive on your petition in order for it to pass. If you'd like, we can grant you a continuance till the next meeting so that you have 5 members, or we can maybe hear this and then continue and vote only at the next meeting. Hi.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Kevin Corain. And as you know, I represent the applicant Industrial Development Group, Inc. And given the fact that we've brought a number of consultants with us this evening to address the issues that the board asked us to address, I would request that we be permitted to make the presentation to the board and have the board defer any vote until the next meeting to afford Mr. Blaisdell or Jim Gould the opportunity, if Jim's available, because I believe they were both here for the initial hearing, the opportunity to listen to the tape of the meeting, or view the tape of the meeting, and review the minutes of the meeting, and then they would be brought up to speed and available to vote on the application that is before the board. I would not proceed if the board were inclined just to proceed with 4 members and take a vote this evening.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Go.
So if we went along with the applicant's request, and at the next meeting, Jim is not available, and if there weren't even a quorum of this board, what happens?
Then I would presume it would be deferred until the next meeting.
But if you only extend to the next meeting, then do you get granted the variance by default?
We can sign an agreement.
sign another
We
one.
can sign an agreement to extend the date within which the board must render a decision. The board has, I believe, 100 days to render a decision on variance request, 90, maybe
But we were
90.
told in an email that we're,
I consulted with the attorney, town council, and she emailed me the information that as long as we have written agreement
It's right
between
in the
both
statute.
parties.
In
I
the
just don't want to
statute.
fall in this, knowing now that Jim could be sick, someone else doesn't show up, and then we don't have a quorum at the next meeting. I just want to make sure that it's not granted by default.
Right, that's totally understandable. The statute does provide for a written agreement between the town and the applicant to extend the time within which the board must
So if
render.
that were to occur, you would extend again?
Yes, we would.
Okay, so you have no problem signing this off, and, okay. I'll just read the email this afternoon from Kathleen Conley, Town Attorney. And let's see, it's dated Wednesday, September 11th, 2019, at 4:04 PM. So we just got this final thought on this. Hi, Mary Ann. A letter from the applicant requesting a continuance and a vote by the ZBA this evening to accept that continuance request will suffice to avoid a constructive approval under Mass General Law 40A, Section 15. I recommend that the letter provide a time frame for the extension until at least October 17th or a specified period thereafter. Some towns have a form that they use to fill out at the time period and have an applicant sign, but a letter is sufficient. And it goes on, but that's basically what it
Just
says.
ask town council to provide us with that form.
It's one we can just make up, really.
Oh, there you go. Sounds like you've got it figured out. Good job.
Okay. So we'll vote at the next meeting. Do you want to come back and do a quick summary, and then we'll quickly vote? Won't take really any more testimony than that. We'll do everything tonight.
Yes.
That
yes.
work?
That works, unless there's some intervening information from Charlie that he wants some additional information, then we would provide that at the next meeting.
And if this board didn't have a quorum because we're running thin, you'd extend again.
Yes.
Okay?
Right? Okay.
I never really read the,
Oh, yeah, thank you.
all right, so,
Scott, would you read the next hearing?
absolutely. 413 Nathan Ellis Highway, Route 151, petitioner Industrial Development Group Incorporated requests a special permit under Section 174-24 and 174-25E to allow for construction of a 9,975 square foot retail use commercial building together with the accessory parking on property located in a C2 zoning district, map 72, parcel 56A, Mashpee, Mass. Owner of record Robert A. Liebwall, Family Trust, 1980, continued from August 28, 2019, hearings at the request of the attorney. Do you want to read them both?
Yep.
413 Nathan Ellis Highway, Route 151, petitioner Industrial Development Group Incorporated requests a variance relief under Section 174-31, front yard setback of a 75-foot from a paper road, Section 174-31, FN 14 natural state buffer, Section 174-37, location of parking, Section 174-27.2, B2C, and 174-82.A.4, use of dry wells, Section 174-41, M, landscaping within parking area, and Section 174-40, access way separation, possibly to allow for construction of a 9,975 square foot retail use building together with accessory parking on a property located in a C2 zoning district, map 72, parcel 56A, Mashpee, Mass. Owner of record Robert Liebwall, Family Trust, 1980, continued from August 28, 2019. Hearings at the request of the attorney.
Hi.
Good evening. The board recalls the last time we were here, they requested.
We can't hear anything.
The board may recall that the last time we were here, they requested that we pay a fee to the town for purposes of having Charlie Rowley review the proposed project. That fee was paid, and Charlie has been engaged by the town to review the plans. We did submit those plans to Charlie. I think Charlie had some preliminary comments. Our engineers have had discussions with Charlie relative to the issues that he has raised. I believe we have addressed most of those, but we have not received as yet a written confirmation from Charlie that, is that true? Did you get something from Charlie? Oh, okay.
It's erasable linkage.
Okay. At any rate, one of the other things the board had asked us to do via a memo that they had sent was to address certain issues relating to the paper road on the lot, as well as traffic issues along Route 151. With me this evening, apart from the Scanlons, who are the proposed developers of the site, is Chris King, who is the representative and project engineer for Atlantic Engineering and Design, Kim Hazar Varshan, who is a traffic expert, and Doug Grummet, who was the building designer. So they're all available to respond to any questions that the board may have in connection, and I would have them basically present the additional information that the board was looking for and to address. A couple of things that have occurred since the last time we were here. We did provide the board with an updated set of plans addressing many of the items that Charlie had raised, if not all of the items that Charlie had raised in his engineering report. The building size has been reduced to 9,200 square feet as opposed to the 9,975 square feet. Resulting in a lot coverage decrease from 19.6% to 18%. I really don't have much to add to that. I will let Chris King then address some of the changes that he made on the plans and address some of the issues that were raised by Charlie. I believe Charlie did provide a preliminary report to the board that essentially confirmed what we had presented to the board relative to the status of Wampanoag Ave. I believe he confirmed what we had indicated during the course of the first session of the public hearing that we had held relative to its status and what would have to be undertaken to attempt to abandon that road. So I believe Charlie confirmed what we had represented to the board. So with that, if the board has no objection, I'll turn it over to Chris and let Chris present to the board changes that have been made and issues that he has addressed raised by Charlie.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Christopher King with Atlantic Design Engineers. As Attorney Corain mentioned, we've been working closely with Charlie Rowley to address all of the comments from his preliminary review. I won't belabor a lot of the technical detail, but a lot of it, the first component was making sure we had a registered land surveyor review the status of Wampanoag, and then provide his certification on the plan. We've done that along with some just additional tie lines to monuments found so that Charlie can follow how we fix the property based on the field survey. There was a lot of detail added to the actual detail sheet itself and specific to just specking out a mass spec gravel base. He had requested that we just define the loading zone to the rear of the building, so we've added some pavement markings to demarcate the loading zone to the rear of the building. He had asked about relocating the dumpsters themselves, but, in our response letter, we had pointed out to him that we had cited them where they are for the simple fact that they would be outside of Wampanoag Avenue and then also outside of the groundwater overlay protection district. He also wanted to just designate the spaces to the rear of the building as being employee only. So we've added placards or signage demarcating those spaces as being employee only. And then he just wanted to add some technical detail, additional spot grades, some additional curb radii, typical somewhat construction upgrades, if you will. And then there were just a couple Scrivener errors that we had fixed, just ensuring consistency between the stormwater model and what's shown on the plans. Just in my quick review of Charlie's most recent temporary review letter, at the very bottom, his stormwater comments were very limited, and we've addressed all of those, and the bottom of his latest review letter, I think, speaks to that, where he basically says the system has been designed in accordance with the prescribed storms and that it's in conformance with those state and local bylaw. There were really no substantive changes based on Charlie's review. Like I said, a lot of it was adding technical detail. He did have two general comments regarding traffic circulation and traffic generation, which were in his preliminary letter, which have also made it to his final letter. And, again, understanding he hasn't had a lot of time to review the technical information, we're confident that, if it has not been resolved, it will be easily resolved, and we'll be getting a positive letter from him in the near future confirming that. I think that the elephant in the room are the two issues where he's highlighted in his latest letter. One of them is he had a recommendation to limit circulation around our proposed store to one way in a clockwise direction. Since the last hearing, we've been working very closely with the adjacent landowner, Brian Anderson of Andy's Market, to make sure what we do is going, we're trying to be a good neighbor here, and we're trying to make sure what we do is not going to impact his customer or loading operations. And so, that's why we've felt very strongly about retaining the existing curb cut out on Route 151. Not only that, but we've reduced the actual linear length of curb cut that was pre-existing on this property and located as far away from the intersection of Ninigret and 151 as possible based on our lot line locations. So we've really maximized that separation, closed kind of the area up. But like I said, we're working closely with Brian and on the revised set of plans, which Kim Hazavardian will speak to, our traffic engineer, in a little while this evening. We provided a future cut-through to provide contiguous traffic flow through the two properties. And so limiting the traffic to one way around the building would prevent us from utilizing that. And the idea there is, as the graphic on the bottom in front of you at the stand shows, you have 200-plus residents to the north of this site that currently utilize potentially Ninigret as their, primary point of access and egress. So, the idea there is that we be alleviating a lot of traffic. Right, currently, they would have to come out down Ninigret and turn onto 151 to get into Andy's Market, presumably. And this cut-through would allow us to remove those vehicle movements, if you will, from that intersection, which was brought to our attention at the last hearing, where the queue times at that intersection in particular. Again, this is more geared towards our traffic portion of the presentation, but I think that it will demonstrate that the traffic generated from the Dollar Tree store itself is extremely insignificant compared to what's generated by the residents. There's the sheer density of the residential development to the rear, and then also some of the adjacent uses, which, if we were to ask anyone when the worst time to pull out from Ninigret to 151 is, I would gonna guess it's gonna be in the morning when Dunkin' Donut peaks. And so again, the dollar store doesn't necessarily, those peaks don't coincide, and so at that worst time, again, we'll get into it in our traffic presentation, but the traffic generated from here is very nominal in the scope of things. It's insignificant when compared to the volume of the surrounding infrastructure. And the addition of this store certainly isn't gonna adversely impact that surrounding area. And limiting that one-way circulation will prevent us from allowing us to provide that cut-through, which we feel will help, again, reduce the turning movements at the Ninigret and 151 intersection. There was also some talk about possibly reducing the width there, but again, if, as part of plan review, the fire chief commented, and he loved the width of the pavement we're providing. He thought it was excellent to provide full building circulation for he and his personnel. And additionally, the building itself is going to be serviced by what we call a WB67 tractor-trailer truck, which is, 70-plus feet long, and so we need the area that we've shown of pavement to provide full circulation for loading operations, for emergency access, and just to promote vehicular circulation around the building two-way that would allow us to utilize that future cut-through and keep traffic away from our front door, because if we don't have that and anyone wants to cut through, now they're forced to cut through at the front of the lot, coming across the curb cut at the shared curb cut at Andy's Market and Dollar Tree. So it just makes sense to provide that future cut through and maintain that two-way circulation. I think the initial concern was that the loading operation was there and might be in an opposite direction, but again, we've demarcated that clearly with pavement markings, so we feel that there would be no confusion as far as loading versus traffic. And I think it's also important to note that the loading operations are going to, they're not going to occur during the operation hours of the store. So, as far as, or when the stores peak, so as far as when you're going to have your best chance of having the two-way traffic to the rear of the building being utilized is not when the loading truck is going to be there. So we feel that there is no confusion there. The other item that Charlie brings in his last letter, if you will, was providing the requested traffic data that the board had requested. So not only from a generation and movement, but also you had requested some crash data over the last 10 years. And so that's, was presented in the formal traffic assessment memorandum, which we feel demonstrates that a use of this type isn't a huge traffic generator. It's a pretty innocuous traffic generator, comparatively speaking. I know that we had put up some graphics. We had put up some graphics previously, just showing, what could be, built, the available footprint without the variance. And again, our variance is to Wampanoag Avenue being a private road not constructed. That's where the front yard setback is, but holding the setbacks, the available square footage would still allow for a use that would still generate more traffic than what we're proposing before you. With that, I pretty much, unless you have any questions specific for me as far as the site plans, there really aren't any significant changes. We've realigned some of the curb radii just to make it a little bit more friendly turning within the site. We've one of, I guess, the biggest changes from the limit of pavements would be right in front of the shared entrance. We reduced the width of pavement to constrict it to 30 feet to be a little bit more controlling, if you will. But again, the remaining pavement to the rear of the building is required to facilitate the loading and emergency vehicles turning throughout the site. So if you don't have any questions specific for me, or if you'd care to keep them till the end, I'd appreciate the opportunity. Yep.
Go ahead. So, in Charlie's letter, he states, and I'll read it, the status of Wampanoag Avenue is that of a way which was created as a part of an overall subdivision plan that dates to the 1920s and is shown partly on a land court decree plan 11380B. It is a 40-foot right-of-way, as is Ninnegret Ave and other streets shown on a plan. That plan was bisected, it goes on and on. But my point is you're depicting it as a private way. I would consider it a public way.
No, it's a private way open to the public.
You know as well as I do.
A public way is a way that results from the taking by the town by eminent domain or otherwise. That is what creates a public way. or by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But if it has not been taken as a way or a street by the town, then it is a way, a private way, open to the public.
So why would I be required, if I were an applicant of a subdivision, to then bond or securitize the construction of that? As in all developers are.
Well, because,
It would then just remain a private way, which I couldn't use as frontage.
well, because of the planning board, when they approve subdivisions, they want to make sure that the ways are constructed in accordance with their rules and regulations. They want to make sure that the residents of the subdivision don't subsequently have an issue, and they want to make sure that they're not having any adverse impact on adjacent public ways.
Why do I sign a covenant that says that it's not a buildable lot until I securitize it, if that's the fact?
Well, if you build the road, then there is no covenant, correct?
Correct, but if I don't build a road, I have to sign a covenant that says it'll never be utilized as a public way. So that goes against counterintuitive to what you just said. If I had, I wouldn't have to sign a covenant.
You would have to sign a covenant. Your ways are private ways. Even private ways, you have to sign a covenant.
No, but if it's always considered private, and that means it couldn't be used as frontage, I wouldn't need to be signing a
No,
covenant.
no. It can be used as frontage. It doesn't have to be a public way to be used as frontage. You have subdivisions all over the town that are private ways that are used as frontage. A public way is a way that's accepted by the town as a public way, whether they do it, and typically it's done by a taking by the Board of Selectmen. That is the definition truly of a public way. Or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can take ways, I suppose, if they chose to do so. But all these subdivisions that you have, that the town has not gone out of their way to accept the roads as public ways, are private ways.
So
But
if
they happen to be
somebody-
open to the public because the public
Somebody
uses
gets hurt
them.
on Meadowbrook Road of the town, well, no, that's been taken. There are a lot of roads in this town that were not taken over by the town for many reasons. If somebody gets hurt on that road, do they sue the individual people who live in that road, or do they sue everybody? But who would the court really look at?
It depends on the nature of how the road is owned. You know, who retains the fee in that road?
I still contend.
Arguably, I suggest that if the way some things are deeded, they're deeded so that you own to the middle of a
I get
road.
it.
Other roads, there are deeds, and the developer retains the fee in the road and subsequently turns it over to a homeowners association, who then would go out of their way, if they were smart, to make sure that they had insurance to cover situations where someone might get
I
hurt.
did not know whether this was shown on a plan, let's say an assessor's plan, which is thus the paper road theory, but Charlie's specifically stating to a subdivision plan,
Well, that
which
that
in
goes
my mind substantially changes the theory.
that goes back to 1920, when the town didn't have a subdivision, nor did the Commonwealth, I suspect, have a subdivision control law.
I get you, yeah, it certainly wouldn't go back that far, but why would Charlie refer to as an overall subdivision plan?
Because it is a subdivision plan. All those lots that you see on that plan were created via whatever that process was back in the 1920s. And I think there was a board of engineers or something that used to approve those kinds of plans
Let me ask.
before a planning board ever
If I wanted to
existed.
drive down that road, if I wanted to clear the trees out there today and drive down that property, because I presume there might be trees on it today, if I wanted to utilize that road today myself, could I utilize it?
I suppose you could,
Could someone stop me from utilizing it?
probably not.
Thank you. That's my point. That's my point.
You know, everybody technically that has a building or a home in that subdivision has rights to travel over the ways that are shown on that original subdivision
So
plan.
then that leads, I'm sorry,
No, you all set?
yes?
When the calculations were figured for the lot coverage, was the road included in the overall lot coverage?
Without being in the source, I can't speak with 100% confidence to that.
I'm going to bring up,
Yeah, one of the things we asked
I can
for
calculate it.
was the registered land surveyor needs to stamp and sign the plan specifically in reference to the paper road with bearings and distances of the paper road and the lot. So the real question is the road
part of the lot.
part of the 55,000 square foot lot?
was the
That's what we're
calculation.
trying to find out here.
If you can tell me, I can calculate it.
Wait a minute.
Well, do you want me to read
It says
this?
right here that the proposed lot is 50,965 square feet. The question is, does that include that road?
I can't answer that, I'll leave that up to the engineers.
That was the first question we asked
Can I read from the bylaw?
on an email sent August 16th.
Mr. Chairman, can I read from the bylaw?
Please.
Section 174-31, land space requirements table, setbacks. Number 6, paragraph 16, any water or wetland is defined under Mass General Law C.131, Section 40. Any existing or proposed street or any roadway, right-of-way, or easement 20 feet or more in width may not be counted towards lot size for the purpose of calculating maximum lot coverage.
Well, that road doesn't exist, other than on a plan, and I don't suspect that anybody's gonna build
Grab the mic if you will.
The road is a paper road that doesn't exist all that exists on a plan, appears to be part of the lot at present, and I don't believe that anybody is proposing to build it. So
I think we-
it
I
just have
doesn't
a problem
exist,
as
nor is
one
it
board member, I just
proposed.
have a problem as that, if
I
if
think that's kind of
correct.
besides the point, though.
That's over our,
Well, but I think we could get over all this if we had a civil engineer on a stamp saying, that property right there is part of a perimeter plan, here's a plan that goes to land court, I guess, land court or land, and that decree states that that's part of that lot.
I believe.
Yeah, again, is it,
I'm not a surveyor, so I can't respond, but I believe it is part of the lot at this juncture, because at one time, I believe, when you go back to the old plans, that road was between lots. Then somehow it became part of a lot.
as one member, I would want to know, without a doubt,
absolutely.
is there, it is or it isn't, because that's a huge amount of, not a huge, but it's a large amount of square footage that would affect that lot coverage.
And not only that, the size of the lot.
Well, yeah, it affects the lot
It's
coverage.
40,000 required.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
don't know what the square footage of that road is, but if that's included in the almost 51,000 square feet,
It's a pre-existing non-conforming lot, no matter how you look at it. So it's a question of 40,000 is not in play at all.
I get your point there, but I think it brings a lot of other discussions or topics,
Affects the
whether you're
variance.
using it or not using it, and who has rights over it. I mean, as you know, Kevin, you got to admit, I mean, these paper roads, and I'm not saying that's a paper road, but these old subdivision roads, paper roads, lead a lot of, thoughts and issues to our lives. I mean, I've had to deal with them, you've dealt with them more than I have, but I'm certain you've pulled your hair out certainly is more than I have, and they are pains in the butt. And I think that's, when you're looking at a lot of this size, and that paper road, or wherever we want to call it, Wampanoag Avenue, is such a large portion possibly there too, it's a very big question. If it was just, a piece over in the corner that clipped the corner of the lot, maybe, but this is a very big issue. And it also comes down to access, comes down to who has rights over it, how those people are going to use it. The people that abut that road behind it might say, hey, we're going to clear that whole road and we're going to converse it and use it all the time now. That's wild thinking, but it still has to be thought about.
It affects
And
every
I-
variance you're
Yeah,
allowed,
I mean, I think
almost
this
every
is,
variance you're.
this has
not
been one of the
everyone, a
things
lot
that
of
the
them.
board was very, very outspoken about, I think. I know, I mean, it's very important to us. And we understand traffic, we're very concerned about that. And that's why Charlie brought up, the secondary letter that you've got now that says, why don't we take a dollar store or the average dollar store traffic counts and put them into the play, et cetera. So as one member, I'm still concerned about those things.
I do know that the lot size, the 50,000 square feet, does match what's on the assessor's card for this particular lot. So as far as the taxable area, the square footage, and we can certainly offer further clarification as to exactly what area is referenced when you're looking at the bulk and dimensional table.
I can only tell you as one, and I'm not belittling our assessors or any assessors maps mean very little to me other than when I'm looking for paper roads and things of that nature, because you know, the legislature of this state has looked at assessors maps, and when you show that little piece, that little line, and it's got a little name on it, all of a sudden, uh-oh. And that's what I look at assessors maps for, but as far as square footage and all the rest, not so much. It's never impressed me.
I agree.
As one member, I'm not comfortable voting on these variances without knowing more about that road. It's a lot of square footage.
It was the first thing that we voted on.
Yep, I
In
agree.
the meeting when we sent the email, a list of 3 things that we wanted information on, and that was number 1. The second one was the traffic study. The third was the registered land survey should provide the board in writing a review of rights and passages and ownership of the proposed paper road, possible paper road.
I think for myself, subject to listening from people from the audience, I mean, those clearly are my concerns. And I understand traffic, and to a certain degree, and I understand what roads are made for, and that's for people to drive cars on and trucks on, et cetera, et cetera. So I get that, but I think we need to look at all these things, and I think we're very pointed the last time. It's not something new.
Sure, and I think we have time before the next hearing to provide an exhibit that would clearly show this is a square footage associated with Wampanoag Ave with the, even though the 2 bearings run side by side, we can certainly put them on there. And then the resulting square footage associated with the lot, not including the areas with Wampanoag Ave. And then add a further written certification regarding bullet item number 3,
Okay.
rights to passage and ownership of the possible paper road.
And as one person, if those rights of passage are such that that street could be utilized by people in the back here for various reasons and concerns, and I understand maybe a little far-fetched, I get it. I mean, that's just a little bit different theory than it just being, something that's stated on a piece of paper.
You'd have to get from point A to point B, and the only way you're going to get from point A to point B is to have the abutter to the rear who owns a residential home build that road on their property.
I get
So
it.
it serves no purpose.
But if I were against, if I were against this proposal and I were that abutter, maybe I'm the person that stands up and says, I want to build that road.
I just don't know if you're allowed to use that area as square footage.
That's fine.
I don't
They want to
know.
build the road, that's why we've applied for variance relief from that road.
I get
Agree
it.
with you.
We'd be happy to make it all pavement.
Yeah, I just
mean,
don't-
it would make turning and circulation a little bit better through that area, and it's actually something that we've talked about. We feel like we're providing all pavement in that area. We're not locating the dumpsters or anything in that area. And I think that it provides better access than what was pre-existing, if that ever, was to come up. And with some minor modifications along that lot line, it could all be pavement.
I think that's yours. Yeah.
Well, I know you took the time to do a traffic study, if you want to review that. And there's a 20-something page stormwater management study. You guys went to a lot of time and effort, money to do this.
I'm not even going to belabor tonight's hearing with the stormwater addendum. Again, it's just updated the rainfall intensity data, something more consistent that Charlie is used to seeing in this particular area. We did that, it wasn't a lot more, and we provided the calculations demonstrating that the system is still sized adequately for the prescribed storm events, particularly the 100-year storm event. The traffic is certainly out of my area of expertise, so if that's all from the civil side, I apologize. We will get you additional clarification from our RLS, who has stamped the plan. So, we're confident of the status of the road, but as far as the rights to passage and maybe a little more detailed certification and an exhibit clearly showing how the areas break out with bearings and distances, we'd be happy to provide that to the board. But without further ado, our traffic engineer, Kim Hazavardian, is here to go through his memorandum methodology and then answer any questions you may have as well.
One last question before you
Yes, sir.
go. Between, I assume, let's see, I'm looking at sheet 3 of 4,
Yes,
and I assume this is Andy's Market over here on the left?
correct.
And between the properties, of course, you've got Wampanoag Ave, and you've got the lot line, it looks like, which is the other side of Wampanoag Ave. And am I seeing a fence here or something, or what is that?
It's,
curb.
Half circles, or?
That's the curb, isn't it?
Are you
yeah,
gonna put
there's
curb
it's
in
just a
there, or-
curb there, yeah. There's a curb with like a landscape or lawn area before you hit the building, and the building is what has kind of the 45
So there'll
degree.
be no cut-through going from the back straight across into Andy's back, so to speak?
No, curb goes right through.
Are you in this area of the plan?
Yeah, that's what he's asking, if there's a cut through.
Yeah, that's the cut-through that is talking about, which our traffic engineer can speak to a little bit more, but, you know, again, we've been coordinating very closely with the adjacent landowner, and our idea was to provide a cut-through there.
Excuse me, read that.
Yep.
And it would basically be a way where we could limit the if any residential traffic wanted to get to Andy's Market, you know, it would just allow them to not have to turn onto 151 and go behind our store, as opposed to, I mean, people are gonna cut through. You can't prevent it, whether you put speed bumps in or not, you can't prevent it. And
Doesn't
so
matter what
instead of
kind of
having them cut through around right through the front door of our store, we routed it in the back. And that was something that, you know, both landowners thought, you know, could be beneficial, not only for their operations, but also just to alleviate the amount of turning movements up on Ninigret at 151. So we thought it made sense. We, you know, wanted to see what, you know, what the board thought about it and what, you know, general comment was about it, but, you know, from a engineering and a traffic movement and circulation standpoint, it certainly makes sense to improve safety in that area.
Yeah, I think people are gonna just, if it's backed up at Ninigret, a couple cars, people are just gonna cut through and use it to
Sure.
go out into 151.
And if we needed some speed mitigating measures so it didn't turn into Daytona 500 back there, then we'd certainly be willing to put speed bumps, you know, in the proximity of that
Probably a good
cut-through.
idea.
But again, you know, we haven't, you know, we're not even sure if this project is real yet, but again, it's something that we're willing to do and could easily be, you know, a condition of approval, so.
All right, the front of the store, would they be able to cut from Dollar Store to Andy's Market through the front, where the front parking is, right across?
I mean, it's not a cut-through per se, it's basically recreating what is currently there now, but pulling it back further away from Route 151. If you look now, it's basically the same cut-through. We're just better aligning it and tightening up the pavement.
So where it says, excuse me,
Sure.
existing sign and lighting to be relocated, is that gonna be an actual cut-through, or is that gonna be landscapes?
That's going to be pavement where the old sign was previously
And
located.
cut-through, that will be a cut-through.
Yes. And that's just a function of it being a shared curb
It's that
cut.
curbing right there.
Yes, and there's a sign here, they're gonna remove it, so you can be pavement to pavement. So it is a cut-through. Well, it's proposed to be a cut-through. Shouldn't say it is.
So there's really going to be two entrances, right up here where the stop sign is, and right down here in front. Is that correct?
Correct.
It looks like that entrance off of 151 can access either business.
Yeah, it's been a shared curb cut for over 30 years at this point, I think.
Probably the same way Cherry Stones worked.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's
Yeah.
just Cherry Stones, that cut through was right up, I mean, the existing island that used to frame the front of Cherry Stones is off the property, and it, you know, is 11, 10 feet wide at best. And that cut through was right there. And so we're basically increasing that landscape area to an excess of 40 feet and pulling it back and better aligning the two driveways out in the front.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I'm Kim Hazavardian, Principal Engineer, Traffic Engineer with TEP LLC out of North Andover, Massachusetts, and Salem, New Hampshire. This is my first time before this board, so I'll introduce myself. I've been working in the field since 1981, have multiple degrees in civil engineering. I'm a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts and 3 other states, and I'm a certified professional traffic operations engineer. I prepared the traffic assessment memorandum that you have, and I'd like to quickly go through it. First, let me describe the site. We analyzed the site as a 9,000 square foot discount store, and the proposed vehicle access, and this is redundant with what Chris said, is by that shared access point with Andy's Market along Route 151 and a driveway to Ninigret Avenue. Both of those access points are as far as practicable from the Route 151 Ninigret Avenue intersection, which is appropriate and good planning. In addition, I'd call it a vehicular connection is proposed between the discount store site and Andy's Market. And from a transportation planning point of view, that makes good sense because it keeps traffic off of the public streets. They can circulate between the uses and, for example, the residential development in the back of the site up Ninigret Avenue can avoid 151 by turning right into the driveway for the discount store and cutting through to the Andy's Market area. We looked at existing volume conditions in the area. We pulled volumes from the Cape Cod Commission reports. And on Route 151, the annual average daily traffic was about 20,000 vehicles per day. In the summer, it goes up to about 27,000 vehicles per day. And Cape Cod Commission also had traffic volumes for Ninigret Avenue, and the annual average daily traffic is 790 vehicles, and the summer volume was a little over 1,000, so it increased in the summer. As far as other traffic conditions in the area go, there's that Dunkin' Donuts on the east side of Ninigret Avenue, and the residences in the back. So all of those combine to create existing traffic conditions, particularly the Dunkin' Donuts during the morning peak period. And those existing traffic conditions vary obviously by season, with summer being busier. I'm going to move forward in the report to trip generation, and that's one of the things that Charles Rowley commented on from taking a quick look at the report. We got our trip generation information using the standard method following the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. They have a land use called Variety Store, that's land use code 814. And if you look in the narrative that describes what Variety Store is, that includes Dollar Store. They use that term. So it's definitely the appropriate land use. And if you look at Table 2 of the report on page 4, you can see that during the morning peak hour, the site is calculated to generate 29 vehicle trips, 16 in and 23 out, 16 in and 13 out. And during the afternoon peak hour, the site is calculated to generate 62 vehicle trips. That's 32 in and 30 out. And that, again, is straight from the ITE book. You'll also see that I have divided the trips into primary trips and pass-by trips. The pass-by trips are drawn from the traffic in the area anyway, drawn off Route 151 primarily. And the pass-by rate I used was 34%, and that's also pulled from Institute of Transportation Engineers data for this land use. So in the morning peak hour, that 29 vehicle trips that's going to be going in and out of the driveways total, 19 of those trips would be primary trips attracted to the site primarily, and 10 would be pass-by trips that would be in the area anyway. During the weekday PM hour, the 62 trips would be 42 primary trips, and 20 trips in the area anyway. Those would be pass-by trips. I also did a comparison that's not in the report of alternative potential land uses for the site. and I again relied on the Institute of Transportation Engineers data. And I generated trips for coffee and donut shops without drive-through and with drive-through, 3,000 square feet of floor area. When I did that, in the morning peak hour for the variety store generation, the number of trips is 29. The coffee and donut shop use without the drive-through is 303 vehicle trips, roughly half in and roughly half out.
Is this in your?
It's not in the report.
Okay.
It's something I did separately. In the morning peak hour for a coffee and donut shop with a drive-through, the number of trips is 267, half in, half out. And then in the afternoon peak hour, the variety store use is about 62, and the coffee and donut shop would be 109 to 130. The bottom line is, if it were something like a coffee and donut shop, the trip generation would be more than the dollar store. Now, and that's based on the ITE data straight out of the book. Now, one other thing I want to mention, if you look at the vehicle trips for the land use we have in the traffic study, 29 in the morning and 62 in the afternoon, you'll notice that the peak time is more in the afternoon, meaning that the peak doesn't coincide with the Dunkin' Donuts peak across the street. Let's see. Some considerations I have regarding the site and its access. The first point is the site improves upon the access that's been in place for many years. The driveway along Ninigret appears to be pulled slightly farther back along Ninigret, meaning it's a little farther away from Route 151. Again, the driveways are as far as practicable from the Ninigret 151 intersection. And all movements are allowed at both driveways. And I see no reason to prohibit any movements. If you prohibit movements, then vehicles have to essentially go out of their way. They have to travel extra distances, travel behind extra parked vehicles. Some vehicles, if they're subject to one-way flow or restrictions, might have to turn out onto 151 when they might not necessarily need to. I don't like to restrict movements at driveways or movements on a site unless I absolutely have a good overriding reason. In this case, I believe that leaving the movements the way they are and allowing drivers to select the most safe and efficient route on their own is the way to go. I also like the idea of a vehicular connection to the Andes Market area for reasons I've already talked about and reasons Chris has talked about. I also believe that the site needs to be designed to have geometry large enough to accommodate that WB67 vehicle. It shouldn't be cinched down to the point where the WB67 vehicle has trouble making it and has a tight fit.
What are considered off hours for that vehicle?
Okay, off hours would be, actually, Chris, you can answer that.
I don't know. Off hours would be when, the store has calculated peaks. And so once, they'll have a peak in the morning, presumably, they'll have a peak in the afternoon. So loading would either take place, early morning, certainly within any town parameters, or later on in the evening. So I don't know specifically for this store, but there's certainly, not going to be loading it in the middle of the day, from my understanding.
What do the other dollar stores do regarding stocking? What time do they get deliveries?
I don't know as an engineer, but we could certainly make some inquiries and see if we could provide that information.
Charlie, are there any prohibitions or any guidelines as to when deliveries can be made to these types of locations?
I don't believe so. I think it's something you would do through the special permit or variance.
I'm just thinking that off hours concerns me with the loading, let's say, in the back and the existing home locations, et cetera. at 2 o'clock in the morning with a truck idling out there for an hour or two to offload could be a problem.
What, is there anything with the town when you're allowed to pick up dumpsters? Because I hear dumpsters at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, all crazy hours. I can hear them picking them up, you know, smashing them, dropping.
Our noise bylaws are very limited. So, I mean, it'd be more like a disturbing the peace. Well, it's more to do with music and
Dumpsters
things
are more
like
noisy
that.
than a truck delivery, but,
But still, a truck, I mean,
It's part of the special permit.
yeah,
yeah.
something we should.
Why don't you give us an opportunity, we could try to figure out what is the preferred loading operation timeframe, and then we could provide that to the board, and if it's off hours or something that you would deem potentially an
I don't know if
impact.
they even have staff off hours to take deliveries.
Well, that's,
Who
you
knows?
know, I'm not familiar, I've never stocked a
must have a
dollar store. I
formula.
would think they would need some staff there, maybe a skeleton crew, probably not full staff. I'm gonna guess they're not gonna wanna pull the truck in and out when they're calculated to wanna do the, you know, when they're doing the most
I
business
only
throughout
raised
the
it
day.
because your document says loading operation behind the building will take place off hours.
I-
So we should probably know what.
Off-peak hours.
Well, it just says off
Sure.
hours.
I mean, I would assume the Commons and Stop and Shop and Roach Brothers must get deliveries.
Yeah, but if there's a noise made at, you know, at the Commons, it's made, you know, there's people that live above the building, I understand above some of the housing, but they understand there's gonna be probably some noise, but they're a little different than maybe this location.
Well, I wonder what Andy's Market gets for
That's true.
delivery times.
Yeah, I mean, I
All
think
the
it would
rest
be
of them down.
consistent with the area. I mean, presumably, it would be consistent with the area.
Because these are the types of things that residents, you know, are gonna find an issue, right? And as they should, because they wanna live their lives as normal as possible, and off hours, I think it's important to understand what those are.
Sure, and we can work to provide more information, maybe frequency and the hours of delivery. But I'm I'm confident that it's gonna be less frequent than some of the surrounding uses and consistent within the parameters of their hours of operation as well. But we can provide that information to the board and make a decision based on where the information leads us. Again, I think if it's something that was a concern to the board and most importantly, the surrounding residents, I think there's something that we could easily adopt as a condition of approval specific to that. But give us the opportunity to get that information and provide it to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of other points. Any landscaping that's put in should not be put in sight lines. Landscaping should be consistent with providing good sight lines for pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles. And one more thing on trip generation. I could have reduced the number of trips in and out of the site by counting some of the trips as essentially internal trips, trips that would not go on the public road, people going both to Andy's and to the dollar store, but I didn't do that. I didn't make that reduction. In my conclusion, I looked at the number of trips that were being generated, and it's less than 100 trips in or 100 trips out, and that falls below the guideline on where you'd get into a larger traffic impact study. That's the Institute of Transportation Engineers guideline. And if you look at the 29 to 62 vehicle trips during the peak hours, they're split amongst two driveways. Each of the driveways has lefts and rights in and lefts and rights out. And when you divide everything up and do the math, during the morning peak hour, that averages to about one vehicle per 7 minutes per driveway turning movement. In the afternoon, it's in the morning it's one per 17 minutes, okay? And in the afternoon, it's 1 per 7 minutes. That's if you spread out all the traffic perfectly over the hour, which isn't going to happen, and then spread it out over all the driveways and all the turning movements. What I'm getting at is that it's not a stream of traffic. It's individual vehicles spread out over an hour. In summary, the proposed redevelopment is anticipated to have no significant impact on area traffic operations, and that applies regardless of the season, summer or other, and that applies regardless of existing levels of service in the area, whether they're high or low. And let me explain that a little bit more. The traffic from the site itself is a low generating site based on the standard ITE data. And in a time where the road is less busy, let's say during an off hour during the winter season, you're not going to see a change in character of the flow. At times when the road is quite a bit more busy, when Dunkin' Donuts busy in the summer, let's say, you're not going to notice a change either. That's because the trip generation characteristics of the site, as documented by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, are low. So basically, what's delayed now won't be exacerbated significantly, and what's not delayed now won't be exacerbated significantly. Also, and I'm going to say this again, the proposed development, its busiest peak hour is the afternoon peak hour, not the morning peak hour when the Dunkin' Donuts is at its busiest. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So my question is peak hour in that area presumably is when Dunkin' Donuts is operating at its peak, which would be the morning, right?
Well, peak hour for the Dunkin' Donuts is going to be in the morning when Dunkin' Donuts is busy,
Which
yes.
would probably be the peak hour traffic-wise before this is built today, would be the peak hour. When is the most traffic occurring at that intersection?
That one, you know, it's going to, I don't have hour-by-hour volumes for the intersection, but usually what happens in a location like this is you have a peak sometime between 7 and 9 in the morning. There's going to be the busiest hour in that time frame, and a peak between 4 and 6 in the afternoon. And usually those peaks are similar order of magnitude. Okay, but the Dunkin' Donuts, which is right across the street, its peak will be in the morning, okay? And that Dunkin' Donuts is
Is
something
not
that's right
Dunkin'
there.
Donuts the largest trip generator in that area?
Well, there are other ones in the area too, but it's right next door practically.
So
it
I'm
has
saying
the
that
most
immediate
effect.
area, it probably would be Dunkin' Donuts in the morning would be the trip generator.
Well, there's a gas station in the area. I'm not
Operation
sure how much that would generate.
Yeah, so those aren't destinations. That traffic is usually, right?
Well, even the Dunkin' Donuts, to be honest with you, the Dunkin' Donuts is largely a pass-by use as well. But even though it's pass-by traffic, it all shows up on the driveways and all shows up in the immediate area.
I thought it would be more of a destination, but it is not.
It's a combination, but it does have
I mean,
quite a
as
bit
a
of
gas
pass-by
station, it historically wouldn't be a destination. It's, oh, I need gas.
Right.
Not, oh, I'm gonna go get gas,
Right.
historically.
They both gas stations and Dunkin' Donuts tend to have a lot of pass-by traffic. A lot depends on the proximity of other donut
I was just
shops and
trying
so
to
on, too.
understand that if the people in the audience who live there today experience traffic from and let's say a lot of it's generated from Dunkin' Donuts between 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning until 9 in the morning, and that trip generation is gonna be equal to maybe the same in the afternoon, which may be generated by your service. That's trying to get a feeling as to what we can say to
I
these
got an
people
idea.
in this audience, what the traffic will feel like in reality, in perception, instead of just numbers.
Okay, I believe that if you look at the Dunkin' Donuts use, the traffic that is generating in the morning is more than the traffic is generating in the afternoon. And I'm thinking the store generates less traffic in the morning than it would in the afternoon. Now, I haven't actually calculated numbers, but it sounds to me like kind of a wash, if you know what I'm saying. It's kind of a balance, a balancing.
So I'm not putting words in your mouth. So do you believe that the traffic that's generated in the morning, from whatever source we'll say, will be equal to or very close to the traffic generated in the afternoon if this store were to be built?
I'm going to
Would
say.
be very similar.
I'm going to say that I can speak to the Dunkin' Donuts, which I know for sure is busier in the morning than in the afternoon. Okay, the general traffic in the area, I can't say that for sure, okay? Usually they're pretty similar, the general traffic, morning versus afternoon. I'm going to say that if you take the Dunkin' Donuts, busy in the morning, Dollar Store not so busy in the morning, then in the afternoon, Dunkin' Donuts less busy, Dollar Store has more traffic, although it's still not a lot of traffic. So that's about as complete an answer as I can give you.
There's twice as many trips in the afternoon as there is in the morning.
Correct.
What time is the store planned to open and close?
8 o'clock in the morning till what, 9 o'clock at night?
I Googled a similar store in the area, 2 stores
Need the mic.
Grab the mic if you would.
I had 2 stores in the area to look up their hours, and they're open from 8 to 9.
Okay, so we really don't have a proposal yet. That's just what other stores in this area are doing.
Correct. I don't think we were specifically asked, but if you'd like us to memorialize it for this, we could certainly, again, check on that and provide that. But I think typically a national brand retailer would typically have consistency store to store, so without being able to speak to 100%, I would guess that with good confidence that this is 8 to 9.
Understood.
Okay, just to get back to this area, there's been a lot of concern. A lot of the letters we get are suggesting that lights belong there. And I'm going to direct this to you, Kim. In your opinion, once this goes in, if it goes in, do you think lights would be required there, in your professional opinion?
My professional opinion is that this project would not create the need for lights. And to decide whether lights are needed, it's a pretty complicated process. You have to do a justification study, and part of the justification study is a signal warrants analysis. The signal warrants analysis, all the steps are outlined in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways that's put out by the Federal Highways Administration, and there are 9 warrants in there, and the most commonly used warrants are the ones that traffic engineers like to use because they're, I guess, the most complete are 8-hour warrants. You need to have certain levels of traffic on the main road and certain levels of traffic on the side road for 8 hours on a typical day. And if you don't meet those volumes, you might look at some of the other warrants. They have 4-hour warrants. They have peak hour warrants. But for the 4-hour warrants, you only have to meet it for 4 hours, but the volumes have to be higher each of those hours. The peak hour warrant, you only have to meet it for 1 hour, but the volumes have to be higher yet. And I won't even get into the other 6 warrants, but you have to go through all those steps, and if you don't meet a warrant, essentially you should not put in a signal.
And do you feel confident that none of the criteria spelled out on your study meets those warrants?
I feel confident in saying that the volumes in my study don't trigger the warrants. They don't trip it.
Okay.
Whether existing volumes do or not, I didn't do an hour-by-hour count. I relied on the Cape Cod Commission counts, but it's not easy to meet those warrants. And you really can't put a signal in unless you do. If you put in a signal that's not warranted, then you run the risk of basically tying up the main line 151 when you don't want to. And when you put in a signal, you actually run the risk of increasing rear-end collisions in an area. So you have to think carefully before you put a signal in.
Who makes that call? Once the study has to be done before
Yeah,
the signal is put in? There's no way around that, is there?
There's no way around that. If one were to go in without a warrant analysis, then, and if there were a crash there.
You go to the town or the state?
That road is, it's got a state number, but it's
a town road.
town-owned, so it would be the town. It used to be that even if it was on a town road, you had to go to the state to get approval, but I don't know, maybe for the past 20 years, you don't have to do that anymore. The town can make the decision, and I'm thinking the decision might have to ultimately end up with the Board of Selectmen or equivalent, the ultimate decision, because it's essentially putting a traffic regulation in place. And an engineer would have to prepare the study, and the town would have to review it and so on.
Okay. There's a lot of traffic in that area, as everybody knows. It backs up. It's a major cut-through. People going over the Bourne Bridge that want to get to Mashpee, East Falmouth, Cotuit, et cetera, all get down, hop on 151 and come in. That's why it backs up. And unfortunately, the people that live in that area behind the proposed store all feel that crunch trying to get out onto 151 and cutting across traffic. Not too bad if you're going with the traffic, but if you're cutting across, it's big trouble.
You're talking a left turn out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no matter what type of business goes in there, that's gonna be an issue, whether a restaurant goes there
I agree.
someday or anything. a
My
mini
question
golf.
is there an answer?
It's a commercial piece of property. Eventually, something's gonna go there, whether it's this or something else. There's always gonna be traffic generated by whatever business goes there, no matter what goes there.
Agreed.
So,
It's commercially zoned.
you know, my concerns are more about this fitting on the lot than they are about
Right, the variances.
the amount of traffic coming out of a dollar store. I think the
My
variance,
two
so my
issues-
opinion as
yeah.
one member, I have more concerns about the variances than I do about the traffic. That's my
I agree.
opinion.
Those are my two concerns also, traffic and variances. And,
Yeah.
you know, the study is the study, I
Yeah,
guess.
I'm not as concerned about the traffic as I am about the variances. I'll leave it at that.
I just think it's bad down there no matter what. Is it going to get that much worse? I don't know.
Above my pay grade.
Jim, any questions, comments? All right. Okay, again, there's a 20-something page report on the stormwater. Maybe you could summarize exactly what this all says, because it's all Greek to me.
Sure. It's basically the set of calculations we had previously provided with updated rainfall intensity values for the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms. So when we initially submitted the data, there's a standard set of type 3 distribution hydrographs that we look to pull the rainfall intensity value for those 4 prescribed storms. We did that. Charlie had taken a look at it, and there's data available on multiple different sources, and it fluctuates. He's used to seeing some higher rainfall intensity numbers, and so we sourced the data that he was looking for, increased those numbers, ran it through the model, and again, the numbers didn't increase significantly, so that the calculations demonstrate, and and I believe he's confirmed that in his latest letter, that the calculations demonstrate that the systems as previously proposed are adequately designed even for the increase in the rainfall intensity.
Just for my own knowledge, did Charlie ask you to use a different model,
No, he just asked
different
it.
method?
No, he just asked that we were good with the method. It was just the actual rainfall events for each of the 4 storms.
Okay, well, you're looking for 2 variances here, and maybe you can help me out with this. One of them is the, let's see, required 3889 square foot landscape area, 1:5 ratio landscaping to pavement, and provided 1847 or 1:11 ratio. So how does that, if at all, affect the runoff?
It would just mean the more pavement you have, the bigger your infrastructure will need to be, the more water you'll have to pre-treat, if you will. So, again, we've captured everything that's currently shown as being pavement. The system is designed in conformance with the stormwater policy and the local bylaw.
So this bylaw is more about landscaping than,
That's what I would, not having the bylaw in front of me, I would
Drainage.
interpret that to be, you're looking for a certain amount of landscaping per parking area.
okay. Well, the other one is really probably where it's going then. and it's the last one listed here, except for overflow from stormwater treatment facilities, and when there are no other feasible alternative dry wells shall be prohibited. That's what's required, provided subsurface infiltration system. So I guess what I'm asking is, why can't you do what's required?
Well, I mean, I don't, I would say that this is an instance just due to the size of the lot itself, being a pre-existing non-conforming lot, just from the size standpoint alone. We have the Wampanoag Avenue. We have very limited room, and so I think that this is a case where, there really isn't another feasible alternative. We couldn't construct a detention basin because you need somewhere for that overflow to go, and we're bounded by two railroads, south and to the east, and we have Wampanoag and a development right to the west, and you have a residential property to the north, so you really don't have you don't have a place where you could just discharge water from a stormwater basin. So you have to send it somewhere, and in this instance, the right thing to do is to send it into the ground, and particularly considering we're in proximity to the groundwater protection overlay district, one of the goals there is to promote recharge, clean recharge. And so we feel like, although we're requesting relief from that specific requirement, we're certainly within the intent of not only that portion of the bylaw, but also the portion that speaks to the groundwater protection overlay district as well, because we're really promoting as much recharge as we can.
If I may ask, Kevin, talk to me, if you would, please, about the pre-existing nonconformity. The building that was there burnt.
And it wasn't rebuilt.
It wasn't rebuilt. So where is the protection? To what degree do you believe the lot is protected?
The lot itself is protected.
Grab the mic.
I'm not arguing about the building because there's no building there anymore, but I would argue that the lot itself is a pre-existing non-conforming lot that has been in existence for
It's not
many,
contiguous
many
with
years.
other ownership of the property, and so it's just the lot itself that has protection.
Correct.
So they-
Not that it needs protection, because
Yeah, it's zoned
no matter how
correctly.
you look at it, there's 40,000 square feet, I suspect, there, so I mean,
But that's why, yeah, I get it.
I mean, it probably conforms to current zoning requirements for a commercial lot.
Right. So there's no tact by yourself or your team that the use, not that you have to, because you don't, or anything in reference to the pre-existing building is still alive and well in any way, shape, or form?
No, we're not seeking any protections relative to the pre-existing building. They would have had to have rebuilt that within a specified period of time to preserve those protections. But in the C2 zoning district, the minimum lot area is 40,000 square feet, 200 feet of frontage, so
Okay.
we've got that.
So what happens, though, if you were to, so Wampanoag Ave, if that weren't to be considered usable land for your use, your then lot coverage would exceed the allowed 20% presumably.
If we weren't allowed to use it,
Right.
that would be a question.
That would be a problem. That would be another
That would be a-
request possibly.
there would be a need for additional variance relief.
So it seemed to me that's a big one we have to overcome, at least understand better.
I need to understand better how the Wampanoag Ave could be included in this lot.
That's what I'm saying, because that would go,
Not so much for the percent lot coverage, but for the 51,000 square feet.
How it could be?
Yeah, I mean, I can't claim the street I live on as part of my property, as part of my,
Because it may
15,000
be,
square
it may
feet.
be as those land court plans changed, that road was put and made part of a lot and was not retained as a separate and distinct road.
How would I find that out?
You know better than I know that would require, that would be like a petition for partition or something really funky.
I don't know.
That's a little bit,
We'd have
that's
to
a
go
lot
back.
of work, man.
We'd have to go back and look at all those land court plans and see how that occurred.
That's
You would
a
have
lot
to
of
go
work.
back and look at all those land court plans to see how that occurred. Because this is the first time I've ever seen a road within the confines of a lot,
Right, and to me, I can't claim the street I live on.
which
is part
makes
of my
this a
lot.
unique situation, which raises the whole issue of
You
variance
anticipate
relief.
doing that work?
Doing what work?
The necessary work to be able to prove to the board that in fact it either is or isn't, well, that it isn't.
I believe you've asked for that, have you not? Have you not
Well,
asked for
said
that?
It's a lot of work to go back and
Well,
figure that out.
Then somebody's going to have to do it.
Okay, just, and you're right, I understand how much I've had to pay to have that work done. It's a lot of work.
Well,
get it.
I'm not sure how much work, you could go back and look at all those plans. There may be a series of 60 plans or something like that to see how that came to be. And a lot of that may have occurred long before, there was a planning board or anything else like that adopted in the town.
Possibly.
And it probably was.
No.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
Nope, I spoke my piece.
Jim? Okay. Anything else, or should we?
No, I believe you have some questions that we need to get back to you on, and we would request therefore that the hearing be continued until we have an opportunity. I'm presuming you're going to take public comment, so I'll step out of the way.
Okay. Anything else?
Do you want to read board first, before comments?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
I already left those.
Oh, do we have the list? Let's start with the list.
You want to do the comments first, the list of comments?
No, you can do the comments, and
I gotta find them all.
I'll look for the list of letters.
Well, I'll go through the quick ones. Conservation, once again, no wetlands jurisdiction. Board of Health, comments, the proposed use is retail with some office space. The floor plans were not included with the ZBA filing, so they will be reviewed as part of the building permit process. A new septic system is proposed. A draft of the septic design was reviewed at Site Plan Review Committee. The site and septic plans are required to be reviewed and approved by the Board of Health. The proposed retail use is considerable reduction in design flow from the previous restaurant use. That's Board of Health. DPW. Good morning, Mary Ann. This is from Catherine Laurent. As mentioned, the town's engineer for the Route 151 corridor improvement project, Stantec, did complete a road safety audit and function design report for the intersection with Ninnegret Ave, looking at traffic volumes, turning movement, and crash history. Based on the existing conditions, the intersection did not meet any of the required warrants for installation of a traffic signal. Because of this work already completed, Stantec may be able to perform a traffic study for the proposed development at 413 Nathan Ellis Highway, Route 151, without much additional work. Please let me know if the zoning board would like me to request a proposal from them. Thanks, Catherine.
A bunch of them from her.
That's it from that I have, unless there's something else.
So do we have any questions on Charlie's response? So there was an email this morning to Mary Ann saying, "I received the full-size package this afternoon. I will prepare a letter in part of the response to what I've received. I won't have time to go through a full review of the plan before tonight, but we'll get it out as soon as I can. Thanks, Charlie." So did he have any glaring issues?
That was this letter right here.
Sure.
Right here. That was today's letter.
This one.
Yeah, talks about traffic, et cetera, the fact that they would like to, he would have liked to have seen them use some trip counts from their actual company.
Okay, so let's read, I'm going to read this letter in. It's dated September 11th, 2019, to the Mashpee Board of Appeals, to my attention. And it says, Dear Chairman Furbush, this afternoon I received revised plans consisting of 6 sheets, an updated stormwater report, and a traffic volume from TEPP LLC, dated today for the above referenced project. At this hour, I've only had time to review the project for 2 important items: traffic flow patterns on the site and traffic generated by the site. In my report of September 5th, 2019, I recommended that two-way traffic on the west and north sides of the proposed building be limited to clockwise, one-way traffic, and expressed a concern for traffic safety at Route 151. Two-way traffic on all sides of the building is still shown. My previous report also recommended information be provided as to the number of trips generated from similar dollar stores as a basis for analyzing the points of access and egress. The idea being that there are many similar stores in the region from which numbers could be generated. The TEP report discusses traffic analysis on 151 in detail, but no specific data from Dollar Tree was included. General retail data based on ITE, Institute of Traffic Engineer figures, was presented instead. These 2 items are left for discussion with no consensus having been reached based on the information presented. The updated stormwater report is complete and, based on the data presented, provides for the containment of stormwater up to and including the 100-year storm event. The analysis is substantial compliance with the Massachusetts stormwater regulations and is considered acceptable. Other plan details that were recommended for adjustment will be fully reviewed as soon as possible with a report submitted to the board. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Very truly yours, Charles L. Rowley. So he's got more information coming. That's it for town boards and
Yep,
Charlie?
That's all I, unless I miss them.
All right, do we have an updated list of letters? All right, I'm going to read the list of letters. Why don't we pass out the 6 letters we read? There are, how many letters total? Oh, boy, 2 pages.
Well, one person's a Falmouth resident, so they don't count.
All right, so let's see, we got 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 30, 2, 4, minus 1 is how many? 43 or
listening.
something like that? Okay,
It's a
we're not
lot.
going to read all 43 letters, but we'll read half dozen letters. They all say basically the same thing. And of all the letters, all 43, the opinion, all 43 was against, not for. So the names are Daniel Rodriguez, Old Brickyard Road. Ollie Prees, 152 Ninigrid Ave. Russell and Susan McDonald, Johns Pond residents. Kathleen McCaffrey, Caffrey, 110 Ninigrid Ave. Carlton and Elizabeth Meredith, 17 Nahono Road. Chris and Helenka DeLuca, 6 Tuspequin Road. Kerry Williams, 21 Nahono Road. Jay Hanley, not listed, Alicia Labetta, 14 Huron Ave. Doug and Diane Semple, 43 Seconnet Drive. Chris Carpenter, 75 Cayuga Ave. George Driscoll, Falmouth resident. Janet Larkin, not listed. Maureen Hendricks, not listed. Sean Cook, 18 Cayuga. Ellen Walsh, 4 Sagamore. Ed Belekowitz, 92 Algonquin. Mark Bernasconi, I guess it is, 4 Sagamore Road. Jeanette Cram, 111 Nanogret Ave. Nancy Lowinger, 4 Seconnet. Andrea Hatchie, 15 Mohegan Ave, I guess it is. Ed Claremont, 1 Sunset Circle. Jeffrey Ryan, 31 Capowak, I guess it is. Joan Morbido and Audrey Murphy, 52 Wampanoag Ave. Kristen Vaughn Henschel, I guess it is, not listed. Cynthia and Albert Lee, 136 Ninigrid Ave. Benedict Valente, Nahono Road. Amy Snyder, Cayuga Ave. George Cormier, not listed. Cecilia Vanderbilt, not listed. Carol and Michael Atwill, 12 Sachem Road. Kathy Martin, 115 Ninigrit Ave. Linda Valenti, letter read in on 7/24. Marianne Lucas, letter read on 7/24. I apologize for all the names that I killed.
Okay, now.
Why don't you read a few of them?
I've got 6 letters that were pulled out of that group. I also have,
Why don't we pass a few out? We'll all read a couple.
but I also have this letter that was dropped off earlier, but the person that dropped it off, Mr. Brisconi, also has, that is one of his letters, so this
Read
is
the
like
shorter of the
this is
two.
like a summary, and it's signed by a bunch of residents, but there's no addresses, so I can't even tell you if they're residents in the area or not.
Can you read the names?
Not really, because they're all signatures.
Got it. I think we get the idea.
So my daughter's trying to FaceTime. So I don't, do I need to read this? And it's basically a summary.
Hello? Yeah, we're going to try and do one meeting
Alright,
here.
All right, so we're just going to read the letters. Am I reading this that was dropped off? Because it's basically a summary of everything we've talked about, and it's signed by
Read
the
the
same.
individual
Okay,
ones.
Okay. Jim, you want to do the first 2 there? And
Okay,
I'll give you
Catherine,
2.
letter to the zoning board of appeals, it's dated September 10th. Dated September 10th, 2019, to Mary Ann Romano.
Is your mic on? Because it's saying I can't hear it. I don't know.
Pull it in close, Jim.
Just pull it in closer to you, Jim.
No, no.
See if-
It is on now. You hear me now?
All I hear is motorcycles. Pull the mic a little closer to you, Jim, to see if it helps.
You hear me now? Oh, good. Okay, the letter's from Kathy Martin, Cape Cod, well, her email address, I won't read that, has sent you a message via, I guess, email. Message, good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to express my concerns relating to proposed construction of a 9,975 square foot retail business on property located at 413 Nathaniel Ellis Highway. I own and reside year-round at 115 Ninigret Ave. An additional traffic at the already congested and dangerous intersection of Ninigret Ave in Route 151 is very concerning.
There are already too many curb cuts with constant vehicle use making entering and exiting 151 very dangerous. This hazard exists now before any large retailer adds to the congestion. The more concerning aspect to this potential business is the sheer number of variances that are being requested. The voters of the town of Mashpee approved a zoning bylaw that are in jeopardy of being overwritten so this building can be built. In this instance, the developer is not looking for 1 or 2 variances, they're looking for 7. This is unreasonable and unfair to the neighboring abutters that could potentially be denied protections that are inherent with the zoning bylaws that are already on the books. I urge the ZBA to deny all proposed variances and uphold the wishes of the citizens of Mashpee. Sincerely, Catherine Martin.
Do you have 2 there?
Oh, yeah. This letter is from Joseph Bacani, dated September 10th, 2019. Hello. I'm writing to submit my opposition to the Dollar Tree store proposed to locate at the corner of Ninigret Ave and Route 151 in Mashpee. As a tax-paying seasonal resident for over 60 years, my family and I have intimate insight into the dynamics of our community. Here is a list of my concerns. First off, I respect the ZBA and the tough job that they have overseeing all proposals coming into them. I trust that the members of our town, ZBA, are dedicated to applying the law and doing what's right for your community. I understand it is not always an easy task. The Dollar Tree store literally is not a good fit. Its proposed size, which I assume is determined by company profitability formula, I feel is too large for the lot size. Proof? Look at the number and the kind of variance requested by Dollar Tree to fit the building. The zoning bylaws were created to regulate the kind and the size of the structures that can be built. I understand the lot is zoned for commercial use, but please follow the bylaws and put in the appropriate size business. Reference, increased traffic congestion. It is bad now, especially in the summer months. Based on the retail nature and the size of Dollar Tree, traffic volumes would increase. Let's do a traffic survey that includes the summer months and look at the current data. I do understand traffic congestion is a result of normal urban growth and development. But in the case of Dollar Tree, the store type and size would attract shopper volume above what would have been if the bylaws are followed. Put in unsafe driving conditions. The volume of traffic on 151 does not offer much gaps to zoom out into. Sometimes after sitting for a few minutes, I cross my fingers and go. Neighbors say they have heard many fender benders. Increased cut-through traffic. Our neighborhood experiences it today as folks cut through the back roads to avoid congestion at the intersection. Pedestrian safety. The back roads are narrow with adults walking pets and kids playing. Community character. Also, let's consider our town's character and identify, and the same for our community. A Dollar Tree store would not be my choice of franchise to make Mashpee the place you want to live in. Why not locate it in the New Seabury Rotary store development? Let Falmouth and Hyannis harbor such enterprises. I have done my research on Dollar Tree corporations, and the data is coming in, and its effects on the neighborhoods is not looking good. Respectively, J. Pernasconi.
All right, I'm going to take the next one. Jeanette Cram, 111 Ninigret Ave, Mashpee. To Chairman Jonathan D. Furbish and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the 7 variances for the 431, it's 413, Nathan Ellis Highway, parcel of land and intersection of doing business, DBA Route 151 and Ninigret Ave. I'm writing this email to the town of Mashpee ZBA because I will be out of the area for the meeting to be held on August 28, 2019. I've been a resident of Ninigret Ave since the 1950s and a year-round resident since 1979. I have lived through multiple fatal accidents at the end of Ninigret Ave, as well as many serious accidents and countless fender benders in front of the current multiple commercial establishments as the area has grown with both commercial and residential structures. I feel it would be a huge detriment to our neighborhood for the ZBA to approve 7 or even less variances for a dollar store for the property at the intersection of 431, which is incorrect, Nathan Ellis Highway, Route 151, the Ninigret Avenue, to be passed for this location as the traffic is already congested now as it is. Small, mostly private roads are used for many children riding their bicycles, residents walking their dogs, joggers, and residents just walking to the area, to the already established commercial food and convenience stores on the Ninigret Ave side of 151 and 431 Nathan Ellis Highway, wrong address. Note, Wampanoag Ave is only a paper road into the current commercial area. There are several homes on the dirt part of Wampanoag Ave, and after speaking to some residents, they were not aware of the ZBA proposal for a dollar store going into this intersection. I would like you all to consider the traffic studies, accident rates before approval is even thought of. Thank you for your time. And then I have one from Kathleen Caffrey. Hello, Zoning Board of Appeals. If you don't want to receive, oh, sorry. Dear Board of Appeals, I am writing to express my deep concern about the possibility of a construction of a Dollar Tree store at the corner of Route 151 and Ninigret Ave. As a summer resident on Ninigret Ave for the last 69 years, I have watched the traffic become more and more congested as the town has grown. It is now a challenge to merge onto Route 151 from Ninigret. With a new construction and the resulting traffic increase, it would become almost impossible. Furthermore, there is no need for a business of this kind. There are already 3 stores in the vicinity that take care of our needs. From what I understand, the building would need many variances, and that alone should tell you that it's inappropriate for the location. We do not need it, we do not want it, and we would disrupt the lifestyle of all the residents in this lovely town. Sincerely, Kathleen Caffrey, 110 Ninigret Ave. You're up. There's only 2 I had.
Oh, I'm up.
You're up.
All right.
Someone's up.
I'm up.
done.
This is from Carrie J. Williams. Message, good evening. My name is Carrie Williams, and I currently live at 21 Nahano Road, Mashpee, Mass. I'm against the construction of a Dollar Tree at the corner of Ninigret and 151. Dollar Tree targets lower-income customers that, coupled with the limited parking and the size of the building, means that unwanted foot and vehicle traffic on connected streets will be raised by non-residents of the area. This community already has an issue with vehicle collisions and injuries due to that intersection. Any added traffic would be horrific. The fact that they are requesting variances to build in this locations just means that they are trying to bypass the rules set up to protect the community from businesses taking advantage of residents. I do not support Dollar Tree in our area. Thank you for your time. Carrie J. Williams.
Okay, I have an email to Mary Ann Romano, stated Tuesday, August 20th. It's from Ellen Brusconi Walsh, 4 Sagamore Road, Mashpee. Dear Zoning Board, I am writing regarding my concerns about Dollar Tree store being built on the corner of Ninigret Ave and 151 Highway. I believe there was a zoning board meeting being held on August 28th to consider this business, and I would like my concerns to be viewed as I cannot make the meeting. I'm strongly opposed to this type of business being built here. There is no traffic light at this corner, and it is already very difficult to pull out onto the highway with the volume of traffic that is generated by the local businesses located here and the residents who live here. Most of the stores in this area are the pull-in, pull-out type of business. Dunkin' drive-through, gas station, Andy's Market, to name a few. There's a steady stream of traffic, which is already too much. I also feel that that this lot is not big enough to accommodate a store of this size, and that the parking will be necessary for its shoppers. Building the store here will make an already busy and dangerous traffic area much worse. Please do not allow this business to be built on this property. Thanks for your consideration. Ellen Brusconi Walsh, 4 Sagamore Road, Mashpee. So that's,
That's the only ones we're going to read.
yeah, 6 letters out of
Very similar.
40-something, all saying the exact same thing, so we get it. Are there any comments which people would like to make? If you would, raise your hand. Why don't we take a limited few, minute or two each, if you would. We'll start over on the left and we'll work. So come right up, your name and address, and
Can somebody remove the easel so that we can see the board?
I'll get it.
I like the easel.
so grab the mic and, if you
Okay.
would, your name and address, and
Sure. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is Joanne Peters. I live at 54 Sassacus Road, which is directly behind what the project is going to be. So therefore, I know that we've seen all these letters and heard all of these letters, and I totally support not having this dollar store, as it is way oversized, and my backyard is right there. I actually met the surveyor that came in. So there's really like no room or anything like that. So I bought my house a year ago, quiet neighborhood, and I know that it was an undeveloped commercial lot, which Cherry Stones was there. I was born and raised here, Mashpee, lived on the Cape all my life. So I know what the roads, the traffic, the people, the cut-throughs, and all of that and everything. So some of my issues that I have about the setbacks is a couple of different things. Looking at the lighting, usually you have a parking lot, and it's pretty big for that size of a store. You're looking at delivery trucks, which the pollution of idling, which is also against the law, especially with EPA and Mass DOT. There's also about the dumpster, which is going to be right up against my back door. The snow removal, sanding, so the trucks in and out. I basically see everything in that area, Dunkin' Donuts, Andy's Market, gas station, all of that and everything. I'm usually the one that's calling 911 when there's an accident out front and running to them to make sure that they're safe. I have a 16-year-old son. Never mind anybody else in that neighborhood that has kids that get dropped off in the buses. And we don't know who's going in and out of those neighborhoods. My road is a private road. I don't plow it. So I have to have somebody come and plow it because the town won't do it. So talking about this Wampanoag Ave, and you said it was limited space, limited room. It's a concern because, first of all of the roads that are in there are all Native American, all the way back to the 1920 and then some, okay? So these roads are very sacred, I feel. So looking at when you said limited room, Wampanoag Ave, which is not even part of the zoning piece that was even required to begin with. And now it's gotten to escalated where they actually have a project to do to go see who actually owns it. And again, my property is right behind and over to the side of that Wampanoag Ave. So to have traffic going in and out all the time. It's bad enough that we're actually dealing with this now, with all the traffic. Especially during the summertime, we all know that. Oh, and everybody knows, Barnstable County Fair, that kind of traffic. And also, with a large building like that, if I was to sell my home or anything like that, it would actually depreciate the value because of the amount of, I mean, it's huge. I mean, my house is probably, what, 900, I mean, not even, 900 square foot, and this is, you decreased it from 9,900 to 9,200. So, and again, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., so I'm going to be having lights in my backyard. I'm going to have all the noise. So there is like going to be no rest for me. And single mom, trying to make ends meet. So, so I feel as if, you know, I'd just like to ask you all, would you want this in your backyard? And if you could, please answer the question for me, for all of you that are on the board. Can I start with?
Yeah, it's not a question and answer.
It's not.
No, but thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. So this is not good for Mashpee, nor the adjacent community. I'm just letting you know also that I've seen these roads from Mashpee, dirt, no stores, no houses. And I think that what we have today is good. So let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question before you?
Sure.
I'm glad you came, because you're the abutter right there. You're the abutter right behind, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
This is Miss
You're saying your
Peters.
house is 900 square feet roughly?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a much bigger house than that.
well, I'm not gonna do the math on that, but she is the
Yeah.
abutter. So this Wampanoag Ave goes to your property. What do you know about that Wampanoag Ave?
Well, I just bought the house a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the paperwork on it. I did get the appraisal, the whole bit and everything, so I have to really do my homework.
Okay.
Did you have an attorney represent you at closing?
Yes, I did, right here in Mashpee.
Did he mention anything to you about the fact that you may have rights over Wampanoag Ave?
He said that I have a lot of land that way, but I just don't know for sure.
So you really didn't get in that conversation?
No, no, we just heard about Wampanoag Ave tonight. This is the
But you are the
first.
house directly behind the
That's
proposed dwelling,
correct.
right?
That's
We're looking at
correct.
a plot
54
plan here, and it,
Sassacus.
Yes.
That's you. Joanne Peters.
Yes, I'm the only house on the road,
She's the director.
well, on that side of the
And
road.
you said that your road has to be plowed by someone you hire. The
Right.
town doesn't plow it.
Town does not plow it.
it's a private road,
What
right?
street are you on?
It's a private road,
Sassacus.
Sassacus. The other, there's
Where's
two
Sassacus? Where is
Sassacus. There's one on,
Probably on this side.
when you go down Ninigret, there's one on the right and there's one on the left.
You
I'm
take
the
a left
one-
on Sassacus to
Yeah,
get to
that's
your-
correct. That's me.
So it's in-
Must be right
Yeah,
there.
her rear of her house faces this lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking.
If we could try and limit it to
Yeah,
a couple of
hi.
minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll be here until
Not a lot
11.
of repeat.
This is a question about variances. I went to the Massachusetts Regulations, Chapter 40A, Section 10, indicates variances should involve hardships relating to topography, soil condition, and lot shape. As we understand it, meaning the neighbors, we've talked about it, based on these criteria, the Dollar Tree project does not have these hardships. So, as we understand it, the 7 variances Dollar Tree seeks would put to put a structure that does not fit by the bylaw regulations zoning laws to protect the integrity of the neighborhood and prevent detriment to public safety in surrounding neighborhoods. So granting Dollar Tree the variances will cause the opposite: dangerous conditions for drivers, pedestrians, and create more cut-through traffic and devaluating abutting residential properties. So I just want to focus on the Chapter 40A, Section 10. So it seems like it doesn't meet the 3 qualifying conditions for variances. So how can you then have 7 variances?
It's not a conversation, though. Yeah, we're aware of it. We're totally aware of it.
So does that,
We haven't
Yeah,
voted yet.
Yeah, this is really not going to be
We're just getting
a question and
information.
answer.
We get an identification and address.
I'm sorry?
Kevin wants to know who the speaker is.
Yeah.
Can you just repeat your name and your address, please?
oh yeah, sorry. Jay Bernasconi, 4 Sagamore Road.
Oh, I think I read your letter.
You did.
Yes.
Think, yes.
Or your wife's,
Both,
or
relative.
whoever it is,
Right.
Ellen.
Right. No, that was my, somebody else, another member of my family living elsewhere. It's okay, so that's one thing. It seems like you already understand that. So what about the Mashpee Local Comprehensive Plan that we have, a future forward viewing document that's been written that outlines how we see our communities going in terms of economic development and community building. So would just like to ask you to consider that document when you make your decision also. And now as far as what I heard this evening about so a few things around traffic. The proposition to put cut through or pass through traffic behind the store, I would request you not to consider that as a serious solution for traffic relief. Seems a bit far-fetched to me and desperate. We would like perhaps do a traffic study where you actually sit and look at our traffic and not accept average, regional traffic data as something to go by. I think we can do a traffic study where somebody's actually sitting there looking at the traffic, especially in the summer months, to get a realistic count if we're going to be talking numbers. So that's I guess that's it.
Thank you very much.
Because a lot of the points that I have been answered already. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? And your name and address for the record.
My name is Doug Semple. I live at 43 Secaunet Drive. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Charlie, Mary Ann, we know that this place is commercial. We understand that. When it was originally the Lakeside Bar and then Cherry Stones, the farm, there was no parking in the back. There was nothing behind the building. At one point, there were volleyball areas. But in reference to the abutter and what she is now facing, this is a major change for that lot than what was there previously. What I would like to address in the interest of time is one thing, and that's the cut-through traffic. And I don't want you to misunderstand me in the cut-through. I'm not talking about the cut-through on the lot that they're building on. What I'm talking about is how the traffic on 151 affects the neighborhood and what I've seen for the last 50 years. As the traffic has increased out on 151, and there's no question that the dollar store is going to increase traffic. I don't mean to insult anybody, but you can't tell me you're going to put a dollar store there and there's going to be the same amount of traffic or less traffic. That isn't going to happen. What has happened over the years is as 151 jams up from Old Barnstable Road, from Mashpee High School, from Dino's, from Andy's, As that jams up, what people do that are traveling eastbound on 151 toward the Commons from 28 in Falmouth, they take a left onto Old Brickyard Road, which is the first road available to get down into the neighborhoods behind this development. What people normally would do would go to Ninigrid Avenue, take Ninigrid Avenue, or they'd go up to Algonquin, they'd take Algonquin. They're not doing that anymore. And more it's happening that people are going down Old Brickyard Road because they get frustrated with the traffic, and it's understandable. I do the cut-throughs once in a while, too. And they come all the way down to Secaunet Drive, which is a very narrow, private road with a lot of kids on it, kids skateboarding, parents walking dogs, biking. It's a very busy street, and to add traffic to it creates a hazard, and it's something the traffic engineers aren't going to look at. So as you add this size retail space or variety store, whatever you want to call it, you add traffic out to 151 that backs up, and more people take the cut-through. And it creates a hazardous situation down on Secaunet Drive. And that's really what I wanted to address. If you grant the variances, you allow them to build a certain size store, and I'm not against the Dollar Tree, I've gone to Dollar Tree, but as you do the variances, they increase the store size and increase the parking because the parking is required for the store, and increase the number of customers. That puts more traffic on 151, that puts more traffic into the neighborhoods as people cut through these private roads. All I ask you to do is to and I'm sure you will, carefully consider the variances and ask the developer to go back and come back with a project that doesn't need the variances or that many. I mean, I understand the paper street is tough, and it's tough to build on a lot with a paper street, and I understand there's consideration for that. But everything else, there's really no need to. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Anderson from Andy's Market. Name was used a couple times, so I thought I'd come up. Whether this development's developed or another development, I stridently disagree with the town engineer that wants one-way traffic. I've managed the store, owned the store since 1983. You can put up all the signs you want. People ignore them. And I approached the owner here, and they approached me because it was always my understanding that when the property was developed, whether it was Cherry Stones or if I developed something, that we would be sharing the entrance for my store in that lot on Wampanoag. The last time I was before you, when I remodeled 21 years ago or 2 years ago, Wampanoag Road was there, and it was well-known, and the town planner had asked us in the 1980s and 90s to eliminate 2 curb cuts. One curb cut was eliminated on that lot, and one curb cut was eliminated on my lot, and we combined to one curb cut which lines up with Wampanoag Road. And if this is to be developed, I told them I'm willing to change my driveway, so we're all coming in and out in a two-way fashion that you should into an intersection like that. The Wampanoag Road does continue behind their lot. Back there, it divides half onto my lot and half on the abutter's lot that just spoke earlier. It's been a paper road since I bought it in '83. I had to do research on it when I was remodeling Andy's because the building's a non-conforming pre-existing structure. And anytime I do anything, and I also will be coming before you in the near future to put a loading dock on because we're all facing the fact that these longer tractor trailers today deliver to a lot of our stores, and we have to make accommodations to meet them. But please, there are a lot of customers that start at the 151 building, The next plaza next to me, through my real estate, they used to drive through Cherrystones across the street and get over to Dino's Plaza without going out onto Route 151. If we deny two-way traffic behind this property when it's developed, you're creating a lot of additional traffic onto Route 151. The other reason I request you have a two-way is I'd rather not have all these cut-throughs flying past the front of my store. I'll be perfectly honest. When Cherrystone was there, my customers probably sped by his front door too fast, and some of his customers went by my front door too fast. Let them go behind our buildings, stay off of Route 151, and cause less traffic. So I just wanted to speak that I am adamantly against the, I think it was town engineer's recommendation that this all be one way. I think it's a disaster in the happening, and that's whether it's this project on this lot or any other project. But I will cooperate any way I can with whoever develops this lot, so we have a very organized in and out between our two lots, because in the 80s and 90s, the previous owner of that lot and I agreed with the town planner that we eliminate our curb cuts, combine one in the middle. I eliminated another curb cut on my lot and combined that one with the road at the time. And I think it's worked out fairly well. That was 3 curb cuts eliminated on 151 in the 80s and 90s. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your comment.
Yep.
Hello, my name's Damon Crook, and I live on 3 Mohican Avenue, just behind Ninigret and off of Sassacus. So I didn't want to repeat what's already been said, really, but there was a couple of things that I was thinking about where, I mean, I have to drive in and out of that Ninigret junction every day, in and out. 7 o'clock, it's not really a problem for me to come out and turn right. There isn't much traffic coming through from Dunkin' Donuts, and even that is a very one-way in, one-way out kind of thing. I'm sure it's busier after 8 o'clock. Turning out isn't really a problem, but it can be a problem turning left at 3:30, 4 o'clock when I'm trying to pick my kid up from school. The traffic is quite excessive. But I mean, as far as the surveys that have been done and the quite detailed studies, that seemed more interested in just that Ninigret stretch and turning into that side road in front of what used to be Cherrystones and what's called a cut-through. But the main problem, it's already there, is turning right off of the highway into Ninigret. It's very dangerous. I mean, I've seen several accidents this summer. Some have been quite serious, some have been just fender benders. Turning left off of the highway, you've got traffic that's it's unwilling to wait behind you, and it can just about squeeze past you into a little dirt side road. Then there's also the gas station which comes up there, there's cars waiting there, plus the oncoming traffic. In my opinion, it really needs a traffic light there and really needs to be studied very well. If we come in to Ninigret off the highway, and we are going to start turning left into that opening, which used to be in front of Cherrystones, you know, the little cut through, and cars are going to be turning off and stopping quite suddenly and then making a left. So, but it's already a dangerous situation right there, and it needs to be addressed as is. Me and my wife no longer actually really turn in there at 3:30, 4 o'clock. It's just too busy, and it's just too dangerous. I've been nearly sideswiped a couple of times, so we are taking that earlier cut through. The problem with Sassacus, directly behind that property, is that it's just full of potholes and craters that are water filled. It's just a mess. You know, you don't really want to be driving through that unless you've got a 4x4. It's kind of crazy. It's just a horrible road. So cars are going to go further back into those neighborhoods where there's kids being dropped off by school buses, my own included. If they go along the pond road, it's very thin, as Doug has already mentioned. There's a lot of, in the summer, there's just a lot of kids and people walking dogs, and there's more and more traffic going down these past side roads now. So, you know, there is a contributing factor that this store isn't going to help with. It might not increase it drastically, but it's not going to help the situation, especially if there's going to be building and construction for several months. The only other thing I was going to say was that I feel that this is quite a large business to be squeezed into that lot. And I think that the businesses within that area are fairly small and mainly sort of family-run kind of businesses. You know, you have Dino's. I mean, it would be nice to have some kind of smaller establishment there, like what used to be there years ago was a nice restaurant. And that should, you know, I don't really understand why the dollar store wants to even locate there when there are much more sort of larger sites in Mashpee Commons and across like Whole Foods in that area. I'm not sure if there are lots there or even lots that can be built on there, but there's a lot more parking, and it seems to be a larger scale commercial area that would be better suited for that. I think if you have a dollar store where we're all in our location, we already have a general store next to the Dunkin' Donuts. That, you know, if we need various cheap, and it is cheap, kitchenwares, paper cups, paper plates, you know, you can get it all from there. And there's other convenience goods at Andy's Market, which we can get there. So I think it's going to hinder those two businesses a little bit, especially the one store that sells just general use items. And he's very cheap. I mean, and for my business, I would go there rather you know, it's a family-run business rather than a commercial business like the dollar store. So I think we should be encouraging a smaller business that fits into that community, preferably not another pizza place. We already have 3 of those. But,
Thank you.
But that's it. Okay, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Burton. I live across town at 11 Cransbourne Circle. I've been a 30-year resident of Mashpee. And while we know that this is a commercial lot and something's going to go in there and traffic is going to be part of the equation, as someone who sat on a similar board to you gentlemen for over a decade and had to make a lot of the tough decisions like you are being faced with tonight, I think it's very dangerous for the board to be setting precedent the way that you could be with granting these variances. 7 variances is an awful lot. And as has been said previously, we have zoning bylaws in place that have been voted on by the residents. And to grant this many variances could be setting a very dangerous precedent.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Might I ask a quick question of the board? Is it your intention?
You have to
You
grab
have
the
to come up
mic.
to the mic, though, yeah.
I'm sorry. Doug Semple, 43 Secana Drive again. Is it your intention to close, well, not close the hearing, well, maybe it is, tonight, and then vote the 25th? Just so everybody understands. That's what I thought you
Yeah,
said.
I think there's going to be more presented when they come back on the 25th, but I don't see it a full blown-out hearing.
Right.
Really a summary and some questions answered, and, you know,
Okay.
unless there's something new,
So you're going to close the meeting and just take in what you've requested?
right? Well, they're coming back with some
With the
information that
yeah.
we were looking for, especially regarding Wampanoag Ave.
I presume we're continuing, correct?
Correct.
We're going to continue the hearing.
So people who have left the meeting tonight who had to go because of babysitters or jobs or whatever, they would be able to speak at the next meeting?
Yeah, I don't know how much we're going to get into it. We're going to try and close this down really quick on the next meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
That one's canceled.
Yeah, the next meeting's October 16th. This will be continued too. And it's going to be very brief. We're going to get some information that we've requested and a summary, and then make a vote. Hi.
My name is Kristen Mosca. I've been asked here by the
What's your
residents
address?
of 167 Ninegret Ave.
Thank you.
And I believe Stephen Walker submitted a letter, but he didn't send it until late this afternoon, so I don't know if you received it or not, but I have a copy of it here Is Stephen Walker
take it, we'll
on the
put it in
list?
with-
Okay, great, wonderful. The only other point that I just want to point out that he has in this letter that nobody has sort of brought up at this point is just, there is sort of a reality across America, but also in Cape Towns, that we're dealing with abandoned, decrepit, old, large-sized commercial properties that have been, vacated and left for the towns to try to figure out what we're going to do with that. And so that's not a reality right now because we're talking about building this property, but that's certainly something that we need to think about for the future. If a Dollar Tree is going to be in there now, is a 9,200 square foot building going to be able to draw another large-scale business like this, and how long is a discount retail property going to be of value in this area? And I certainly know that a lot of the residents don't see it holding any value at all. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll take the letter and we'll add it to the group. Anyone else? Okay. We have one more.
Hi, my name is Marlene Jarvis. I live at 55 Pequot Avenue, which is off of Sassacus. I just wanted to talk briefly about the character of the, I'm opposed to having the Dollar Tree go into this location because of the change of the character of the neighborhood. We have a tight-knit community. We already have a mini mart, we have Andy's, and we have the Shell gas station where we can get everything that we need without putting in a store like the Dollar Tree. It would be great to see more stores, like stores in our area, like the White Lion gluten-free bakery, Laura's home cooking store, and just stores in general like that. My other point I wanted to make is that I was looking online to see where other Dollar Trees were located on the Cape, and there are 5. There's one in Dennisport, one in Hyannis, one in Falmouth, one in West Yarmouth, and one in East Yarmouth. These are all located in strip malls. What I would like to find out is why we have decided that they would do a standalone Dollar Tree in a small knit community location like ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more.
My name is Lisa Peachy. I live at 160 Algonquin, and I just want to agree with the last speaker. There's been a lot of talk about traffic, and I just want to speak, as she did, to the character of our town that I'm proud of. And I know it's not your job to police what type of businesses we have in the town, but we don't have to grant them massive amounts of variances so that when people arrive in Mashpee and drive along 151, it says, "Welcome to Mashpee. It's a crap fest." Because that's what that store says. And that's going to be the first thing they see. And I would not be proud of that. And so if they want to downsize their store and we still end up with a dollar store, that's fine if they don't need 7 variances to do it. But if they need to bend the rules so that we can sell crap as the first thing that people see when they drive into Mashpee on 151, I will not be proud of that.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Kevin?
I'll just make a couple of comments. I don't know whether folks have had an opportunity to view the building, but the building itself is probably one of the more attractive buildings that is proposed for that stretch of Route 151. Two, and I would like to get copies of all the letters that were submitted to the board so that we can review those and comment specifically as to the issues that are raised in those letters. I'm not going to take a lot of the board's time. I'll raise comments or respond to some of the comments that were made next time we're here.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't disagree that certain other uses would be more attractive to some, but those other uses, quite frankly, would generate, in some cases, even more traffic in a smaller building than what's being proposed by this particular use in this size building. The other thing that I think people should be aware of is the unique conditions and circumstances that we have relative to this lot. We don't have, and I can't recall any lot that I'm aware of, and I've been doing this for a long time in the town, where there are 3 streets that impact a use on a lot. And a lot of the uses that were on that lot before were uses that predated any of the new zoning requirements that have come in. So I'll let it go there and reserve any further comment after we've had a chance to review the other letters that have been submitted.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So would you like to make a motion to continue this to October 16th?
So the applicant is asking to extend or to continue this hearing till October 16th. Am I correct in that, Kevin?
Presuming that's the next meeting of the board, it'll give us enough time to submit responses to the additional information that the board is looking for and that give Charlie a chance to
So
respond.
you are requesting that?
That's correct.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to extend this hearing till October 16th, 2019.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job. Hey. What time it is?
11:16, what?
9:11.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a little weird.
That is weird.
We gotta vote on 2 more things.
I should have let you leave.
But my pocketbook was over here. I almost-
Can we move on?
Yeah, a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Can I make it right now?
Can I get out of here today?
Shut this down shortly.
Okay. Move to approve the meeting minutes of the last meeting.
Wait a minute, let me,
Retire permanently?
Okay. We gonna sign anything? We go on to the next one. It's getting
Move to approve the meeting
Move to
minutes.
extend anything that's left on the agenda.
Move to approve the meetings of August 28, 2019.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.